Yeah.
And we are live, ladies and gentlemen, and we got a packed house. Um, Usually, most hangouts, I guess, are late at night. Most people eat TV dinners while doing them, but we wanted to do ours during the day. So, why? I don't know, because I'm bored. I talked to Dave. Dave said he was busy, pleasuring himself to some type of male picture of. Oh, we found it. It's Joe J, uh, or it goes by Bubba there, who's trying to show. J, J, I can't call him Bubba. Jay, I I swear to God, do you want to do a posing competition? Because I will destroy you. Do you want to do one of those? Like we'll do it at the library with kids. Like during the puppet show, we'll just come out and do the whole posing, but like we'll grease each other up.
Oh,
I don't know. I think the kids would enjoy it. All right. So today's topic uh, is the media. Can you trust the media? Is it real or is it fake or what's the deal? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is oh, and real quick, if Gus is out there, I invited Gus to this. I hope you get better, man. He wasn't, he's not, he wasn't, hopefully he gets better. So, all right. So, the reason why I'm doing this is because I saw a thing where Don Lemon of CNN. No, it was another guy. It wasn't Don Lemon. It was another guy that works for CNN that's been on the show. And he remember when Trump won, he gave a speech about it being a whitewash. Can anybody remember that man's name?
Mm.
Anyways, he said it was a whitewash or whatever. Then I saw a little clip of him, and the guy didn't know he was being taped outside. And the reporter said, "Yeah, we all know it's bullshit. It's pretty much just done for ratings, you know." So I'm thinking, do these people does the news really hate Trump that much, or are they just trying to? I mean, before I remember, growing up, when it was breaking news, when they go, "This is breaking news," it was like serious stuff. But every broadcast today is breaking news. And I'm thinking, you've used the word so much. It's like the kid that cried wolf. I don't care. There could be breaking news. A nuclear bomb has just, been detonated and it's headed straight for you. And it's like, I'm like, I don't know. I'll probably change a channel before, uh, uh, that sentence would be finished. So, um, yeah, do you think the media is playing a game with humans? Um, there was a video that I showed Jay, who's going by Bubba here. I'll call him Bubba because some people are gonna be confused. So Bubba, I sent him an old movie, one of my favorites. It was with Rowdy Piper, and it was the one with the aliens where he found sunglasses that were showing subliminal messages, where he would look at a sign like a dollar bill and it would say, "I am your god," you know or he'd look at a sign and it would say something like, "Brush your teeth with this product," but if you put the sunglasses on, it would say, um, uh, "Obey," obey your master or whatever.
Oh, you're talking
So
about that They Live with Rod Roddy in it?
yes, that's it. They Live. That's a I think a very underrated movie.
It
Uh,
is.
uh, uh, I really enjoyed that movie, and it was so ahead of its time. Reason being is there is so much. There's no, you hear that thing, happy news. There's no, I don't, they happy news does not sell. And do you think, another question in this discussion will be, do you think that we've become so cynical that we get off on people's bad news? Like, do we get off on when a star falls? When I mean, before, uh, I mean, we used to hold stars up to such a huge, they were, stars, and then now, excuse me, for example, they said that the Oscars was the lowest ever. I think at one time it had, what is it, 1997, there were 41 million people that watched it, and this year it was 25 million people. That's horrible, you know. So, um, and half the show is politics. We hate Trump. We hate this, and yeah, I'm Canadian. I don't give a fuck about Trump, but it's like, has it turned into fear? Because I mean, if you're like Jimmy Kimmel, you really don't live in fear. I don't, unless you know, you know, don't go anywhere without your bodyguards. But when he's doing his show, he'll have, bodyguards or whatever. So he's pretty safe. There's not going to be a mass shooting. And if there is, the guy would die in a couple seconds. He has professional, bodyguards there. So, yeah, which I think is kind of hypocritical because he tries to make it seem like he's the average everyday man, but meanwhile, he's not. And most people can't afford, uh, having armed bodyguards with them 24 hours a day or watching their house. You're on your own pretty much, for most people. And I think that's why Americans want their guns, because when they see these mass shootings, they're like, well, I'm going to protect my family. If, like, with that there was that other mass shooting where that fucking maniac went in there and killed a bunch of kids. And the sheriff was a complete eunuch, where his deputy just stood outside. I mean, in Canada, if you were, I don't even think you could, I think if you're a police officer here and you didn't do that, you'd be fired. I mean, that's your job. You're supposed to, there's kids getting shot up in a school. Even if I didn't have a gun, I'd still go inside the school to try and help, and if I had a chance, I'd fucking stab the guy in the eye with a pencil, So that's if I get close to him. But I wouldn't sit outside and listening to kids getting massacred. That to me is disturbing. So, anyways, getting back to that, these are some of the things I want to cover. So, number one, do you think that we live in a time that fear, of course, fear always sells. And what I mean by that is, you got to buy this car. The Volvo is the safest car. Don't you want to save your family's life? Spend a couple thousand more and get yourself a car that is 5-star rating, blah, 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 blah. So do you think that the news is the same way, has taken pretty much what advertising has done, where you need this product, the government, I mean, the whatever, Trump is evil, it's the end of the world, do you believe the news? Yes or no?
No. I think I found the article that you were talking about, or the person you were talking about. It's this Van Jones character, and I don't think whitewash was you're talking about, is white lash.
Well, that's it. White lash. She said white lash.
Right. If you click my or hold your mouse over my image, there's a white arrow on the right hand side.
Yeah, I see it.
If you click it, there should be one of them that says "Present to Everybody," and that'll keep the article up on the main screen.
Okay, there it is.
And
this was a white lash. Van Jones takes it on the election results.
Right, and we'll just go ahead and go through what the hell this fool said, because this is now a year and some months later after this article, which was written. Let's go back up here. This is November 9th, 2016. So this is basically right after the election. This is Wednesday after the election. Okay, so this is before he was even inaugurated.
Right.
This is what this guy was saying, and this is, remember, the day he was inaugurated, there were people in the streets screaming their heads off. There was people rioting. Antifa was out there, and it was a mess. People were just going nuts, and of course, the news was taking advantage of that. They weren't. There was something to see, and they made sure everybody saw it, and they weren't impassioned. They weren't saying, "Don't participate, don't make this work worse than it is. The president only has X powers, he can only do so much. Remember, there's 3 branches of government," and so on and so forth.
Right. They were fanning the flames, in other words.
Exactly. So this guy comes up, and Van Jones is he's a black reporter, so I mean they played that card as well. He says, articulating the fear that a lot of Democrats are feeling at the prospect of a Donald Trump presidency, Van Jones called the election results a white lash. You tell your kids don't be a bully. You tell your kids don't be a bigot, and then you have this outcome, the CNN analyst said Wednesday morning. You have people putting children to bed tonight, and they are afraid of breakfast. They are afraid of how I explain this to my children.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Jones said his Muslim friends were texting him asking him if they should leave the country.
They should, yes.
Acknowledging many voters were rebelling against the system they felt had failed them, Jones said there were ugly racial sentiments at work here. Quote, this was a white lash against a changing country, Jones said. Quote, it was a white lash against a black president in part, and that's the part where the pain comes. Social media reactions to the remarks were mixed. Time for my hashtag Van Jones moment. Need to reach out to the people I care about. What do I say to my baby sister? I'll start with, it's going to be okay. A woman named Monique tweeted from San Antonio. So they put out all this. I'm not going to finish this because it's more of the same.
Yeah.
And it's old news. So the point being is it literally is the sentiment that this is going to be a rough ride. And I'm not going to say that Trump has been fun. But it's been entertainment.
Right.
And that's what the media makes it. And the thing about the news, especially in this country, I don't know about in Canada. I don't know what the laws are regarding news media in Canada, but down here in the United States, there is no particular reason cable news networks, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they don't have to they're all op-ed. They do not have to present actual news.
That to me is terrifying because I remember CNN. I used to watch CNN all the time, and I grew up watching CNN, and it was kind of like if you wanted the news, I'd either watch CNN or or the BBC. I'd never watch CBC because it was always about canoes and maple syrup, which used to, and it was depressing. So
it's kind of boring, yeah.
It is boring. So it was more like, except for when Trudeau came in office, and now he read 3 books yesterday, and I was fucking impressed because they were all coloring books, and that shit's hard. Okay, so
that arrow you clicked on me, you can click it now and stop presenting me.
All right. So yeah, if there's anything else, Dave, that you want to show, please let me know so that I could do that again.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That was good. So Yeah, no. What bothered me about Van Jones was I saw a clip, and you could find it on YouTube, and I wish I had the link. He's pretty much saying it's bullshit, and we all know that it's just for news. And I'm like, you're fear mongering, you're scaring people, and you're making it more. I've never seen the world. Bubba, are you still there? Or are you fucking oiling up right now?
Mhm.
So I've never seen the world so well, the U.S. so racist. I mean, I've never seen it so. Maybe people are like, well, it's always been racist, but I've never seen it so divided in my life. I mean, I just that's what it seems to me, and it's like they're pretty much saying that Trump's a racist. Which if that's true, how the fuck did you get in office? You know,
Well, and there's this. I have talked to people. I've know people who voted for Trump, and they're not racist.
right?
Okay, my mom for one, and I'm not happy she voted for him because I think he's a disgusting individual, and I think that a lot of people who voted for Trump voted because they don't see voting for a third party here in the United States as a viable option.
Well, don't you think it all started to fall apart with when they started calling Hillary Clinton crooked and showing that she was getting, was it after the election when they found out that she was actually getting notes passed by CNN during the debate so she could just, when she was going up against Bernie Sanders? Because I think if Bernie beat Hillary, I think Bernie would have beaten
Well,
Trump.
the DNC definitely has a part to play for this fiasco because they rigged it. They basically said they didn't have to listen to the the primaries.
Right.
Okay, so what the hell is the point of having the primaries in your party if you're not going to listen to your voters, your constituents in your party, and take the candidate they voted for?
Right.
So, and I, to this day, I've yet to see the Democrats come clean about that crap.
Oh, I don't. They
There's,
they never will. I
and I
mean,
don't think they will know.
you can't. Once you say, yeah, we rig that, you will never. It's like somebody who cheated. It's like cheating on your wife,
Hmm.
and then your wife will never, or you're cheating on your partner. They will never look at you the same way. I
Oh,
mean, people never looked at Bill Clinton the same way once they found out that he lied. You know, they always that will always be held over his head. You could have said he did good, he did bad, but that will always be held over his head once. And that's the number one rule in politics. Never, if you lie, I mean, if you get caught in a lie, don't admit to the lie, because if you admit to the lie, you're fucked.
oh yeah, definitely. It's and that's what's gonna happen. And the whole thing is, the Democratic Party admits to it, they're gonna. That's literally committing suicide as a party.
Right.
That's basically giving the country to the Republicans, and they'll never do that. They can't because they're the only other party that can actually give the Republicans a run for their money. The Libertarians can't, the Green Party can't, and they're the only other possible candidates, and they're
Right.
not even close to doing it. So
Right.
what the Democrats need to do is they need to get their shit straight and clean house. They need to get those corrupt people who keep trotting out Hillary Clinton. This is what, the third time they've tried with her.
Yeah. She wanted to, for some reason, they wanted her to be. And I have nothing against women and her being president, but when all this stuff started coming out about, and I know a woman who ran the Haiti Foundation, and she says the people of Haiti can't stand her. She's a corrupt person, and it was pay for play. That all came out. And when CNN, there was a poll done where uh, uh, it showed that um, that CNN, what it was something outrageous. Where 95 or 96% of the time is all negative against Trump. You know what I mean? Like, so to me, it's like you could hate the guy as much as you want, but why don't you? I mean, he got barely no coverage when they said uh, he got it's the lowest unemployment rate for blacks ever. And see, it's gotten to the point where I don't even know if that is believable, because you talk to some people and they go, no, no, that's not. No, you're reading that wrong. That didn't that happened because Obama did that, and now Trump is getting the benefits of what Obama did. So I'm like, this guy can't win no matter what.
Well, and I'm not a big supporter of Trump. I don't really like him. But at the same time, every single thing he does, everything he does is under horrible scrutiny, and it's completely biased against him. Except for Fox News, which is completely biased in the opposite direction. It makes him out to be some kind of saint. There's
Right.
no middle ground here with the media, and this goes back to the fake news nonsense. All the big ones here are fake. There genuine news? I don't
That's the
know.
thing that's what's terrifying, because the only guy that I enjoy listening to is Tucker Carlson, which I used to hate that guy, but he kind of is enjoyable to listen to, and I don't know if he's trying to be fair sometimes or not, but that's the problem. If all news outlets, if it's like Fox News going up against CNN, MSNBC is going up against, they're like, it's like it's like of course the U.S. will be divided when your news channels are like, it's pretty much, who do you listen to? If I say to you, who do you listen to, and you're like, I only listen to CNN, then I know that you hate Trump, you know. But then if you're like, well, I only listen to Fox, then it's pretty simple. I go, well, then you're a Trump supporter. That's what it's come down to. That's what the news has come down to, is who we know who you like.
And
You
if I
know,
say I listen to NPR and BBC on occasion, I think for myself.
right?
I mean, those are the people you need to look for.
Yeah, except for when Kathy Jones is speaking, then you're like, fuck, that is just and it
Then I just hit my head against my desk
yeah,
repeatedly.
and just say, why are you even? Oh God, she's just an embarrassment to the BBC.
Yeah.
So uh, yeah, that's the huge problem, and I think that's what they want. I think that's what the news outlets all want, because that gets people to watch the news. It really does. If Because when I saw Van Jones outside, he's standing outside and he's talking about it. They even had a, a, a CNN reporter or a producer talk about it, and he's like, "Yeah, it's all bullshit. We just do that just for ratings, man." That's pretty much what he was saying. He's like, "Yes, we know that Trump didn't have Russian women piss on him, but we do that just for ratings." And I'm thinking, fuck, you're the news. You should not be doing that. That's why we got so many flat earth fucking I wish Red was here right now. I would tell him I believe in a flat Earth just to piss him off. But that's why we have such a, you know, lunacy out there, you know, where you're always going to have people going up against, you know, people not believing, you know, you're not going to believe. I mean, God, before the election, they were talking about Hillary winning by 90 something percent. Oh, you know, and so I'm thinking, you know, I'm watching it that night of the election, and I'm thinking something's not right here. Like, what the fuck? Trump won. Wait, he won Florida? What? Wasn't he supposed to lose Florida by 87% of the vote? And then he's got Florida, and I'm thinking he's got this, he's got that, he's got that, and I'm like, holy shit, he might win, but he can't. There's no way. I mean, the media, you know, the media said that he has no chance of winning, and he ended up winning. And ever since then, I'm like, I don't trust anything the fucking media. You know, if you can't even, uh, um, if your numbers are that off, I mean, we're talking not 50%. I mean, I remember there were like some polls saying 97% Hillary will win, and they show pictures of Hillary with a champagne bottle, drinking with Bill, and you know, and Bill fucking some chick on the side, you know, and it's like you're watching this, you're thinking, yeah, there's no way Trump could win, and then you're in your head, you're playing the scenario going, there is no way they're going to have a guy, the apprentice, the guy who you're fired or whatever, be the president of the United States. That's just not going to happen. And then all of a sudden, um, he is the president. You know, that's what is insane. Is like I couldn't believe it. It took me. I still can't believe the guy's the president. You know, when you sit there and go, Donald Trump's the president, you're still kind of going, if you, I mean, if you told people this 3 years ago that Donald Trump is going to be the president, they would laugh at your face, you know.
But you know what? I bet you a lot of people thought that when Ronald Reagan was elected too.
Well, I was too young. I mean, when he became president, I was only 10. So I never really followed that. And I always thought he always, you know, they always had him as, uh, they always played him as a stupid person. Remember, uh, you know, what was it? Saturday Night Live used to always make fun of him as this kind of, you know, not a very smart man, and
Well, yeah.
you know, they would lambaste him, and he would, oh well, you know, his thing was, oh well, you know, and you know, so I don't really remember him a whole lot, but I remember you know, he lasted 8 terms, um, and then Bush lasted 4, and then Clinton took over, and then Bush came back. And to me, you know, watching Bush and Clinton, it always felt like it was like George Carlin always, you know, has that famous saying of, "Hey guys, it's a party that you're not invited. It's you know, it's a closed party. You know, it's you know, these guys really, you know, they you know it's a party that we the public are not invited to. You know, it's a closed party. You know, either if it's Republican or Democratic, it's the same shit. You're not getting into that party. You know, you're not getting into the club. Sorry, the club.
Well, yeah. There's that whole, you can come in and you can get into this and you can deal with it, or you can't. Like, you don't have the credentials or the money to do it. And that's what it takes to become president, obviously.
Yeah.
You either have to go to the schools and get the political science degree, which and that's not a guarantee because then you got to run for office and get the money and get and suck the right, special interest group dick, or you've got to have the money like Trump did. And,
Yeah.
and you've still got to suck the right special interest group dick because it looks like that's what he's doing anyway.
Well, wasn't his thing was he was going to build a wall, and then it's been
Oh,
how long? What, a year?
campaign promises never pan out. You know that. And
Yeah,
no, that shit started in high school with the freaking student body. Oh, we're gonna have Kool-Aid coming from the drinking fountain. The
yeah,
hell you will.
yeah.
So, I mean, campaign promises being broken is not new. And I don't think anybody honestly expects a wall. If they do, it's stupid because most illegal immigrants get here on an airplane. They come here on a tourist visa and then they just stay.
Right.
That's how they get here. They don't actually come over the border and sneak in. That's not how that works.
Well, yeah, I don't know how they. I don't know. All I hear is that people complain about. They have to find a better way of. Now, is in the States is illegal aliens as bad as what the news or what Fox News says it is? Because I mean, if you listen to CNN, CNN's like, hey, there are people that just want a better life. What the heck's wrong with that? And then you listen to Fox News, and they're like, yes, that woman was raped by illegal aliens, or that police officer was shot by an illegal alien that should not have been in this country. And
Well,
you know what I mean? You're kind of going like, what do we believe here? Like,
there's this perception that they're all here and they're going to commit crimes. The reality between what you're saying, the two extremes that you're presenting, is it's somewhere in the middle. Of course, it's always somewhere in the middle. There's a huge percentage of our economy that is driven by under the table labor,
right,
provided by those people that stay here. My brother-in-law, or stepbrother, I got too many relationships because my mother and my stepmother's kids, that side of the family is huge. It's gigantic. It's a Catholic Italian family, so there's so many people over there. I can't keep track of it all. And I'm from a nuclear family where you have two kids and
right,
two parents. And when my parents got divorced and my dad remarried, and I just can't keep track of all those people. So, but he runs a ranch in Colorado, and most of the ranch hands on his ranch are there for seasonally, and he pays them under the table. Just it's part of that business, and it's pretty much the same throughout the entire Midwest.
right.
And they don't pay taxes. Unfortunately, and that's what people are really. That's what the Republicans are actually pissed about.
Yeah, because they keep bringing up that billions of dollars every year is lost because of immigrants, and and yeah, you hear that every night.
But instead of getting taxes where they could actually enforce the taxing of something, because that's almost an impossible thing to close. To collect 11 million people and
Right.
send them back over the border. Let's take a look at what it takes for someone to get over the border. First of all, most of the people that get here from Mexico aren't actually Mexican. They're from further south than Mexico. So
Like you talk like El Salvador and
Colombia and all
right.
the shithole, literally shithole countries, that third world countries from South America, okay, and Central America. So they make their way up and they get into Mexico, where they're more likely to be deported than they are from here. Okay, so finally they get into the United States and they're up in New York working in the pizza shop, or they're out in Colorado working in the ranch. And they get deported back to their country of origin. Do you honestly think they're going to stick around again? They did it once. They're going to try to do it again because this was the best place they ever were. So, and you try to do that with 11 million people. We do not have the manpower to keep that many people out, to kick that many people out, rather. It would take like a lynch mob of epic proportions to get that many people to leave. And then they come here and they're having kids. Well, guess what? If you're born on the soil of the United States, you are a U.S. citizen. That's how that works.
Right. I think that's in any country, right?
Well, some countries have different citizenship laws based upon whether your parents are naturalized citizens or not. But in our country, it doesn't matter if your parents are citizens. If you're born here, you're a citizen. It doesn't matter if your parents are citizens or not.
So what? Because the big thing was like they're saying that people are purposely going over the states to have their babies.
Right. So they come here, they have the kid's a citizen, has dual citizenship because their parents are citizens of another country. And the kid, now that gives their parents travel rights to come here and stay here because they now have an in through the immigration system.
Right.
And then there's those kids that were brought here so young that they didn't actually have a choice. And then they started going to school here, and this is literally the only life they have ever known, is the one in the United States. So if you send them back to the country where they actually are citizens, you're literally ripping them from the only life they really know. Those are those kids that are talking about, those I forget what they call the program, DACA or something like that. But they were actually trying to close that down because it's like, well, those kids, if they become contributing members of society, then they can apply for citizenship and they should be able to get in as naturalized citizens at that point. It just should be a path because they've been here so long. They've gone to school. They've got our education system underneath their belt. If they contribute, there is no reason to send them back whatsoever.
Now, is that I mean, there are like really hard stories to watch where they will say that the father or the child or, the kid needs to, they've been here for 10 years and they're not citizens. The father's in the hospital and they don't care. He needs a transplant. Just get him out of here. Like, is that true?
I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't know either because it's just like I just think that is, if that is true, that is pretty heartless, Uh, uh, like I know it costs money, but still, you know, to do that. And that's what I mean by the news. I mean, what can you believe anymore?
Well, the news is supposed to be the fourth branch of the government. And there was a time, like during Vietnam, where you'd turn on the news and you'd see the horrors of war on the TV screen. Like literally, you would see.
Oh yeah, they would that, and they said
graphic pictures of what was going on over in Vietnam.
Yeah, and they said that was the worst thing they could have done because that made people say, "I don't want my kid there anymore."
Right. Well, guess what? They say it's the worst thing. No, it's the best thing because
no,
war is
a
horrible thing. We don't need to be at war. We don't need to be doing that shit all the time. We've been doing it since Vietnam. We've been doing it since World War II. We've been doing it most of the time we've been a country, to be honest.
And why is that?
I don't know. because we can't seem to stop. Can't seem to say, hey, let's leave well enough alone and stop being a dick or whatever it is we're doing. And
Like-
I understand that every place has every conflict we get into has a reason behind it, and it's the individual reason may or may not be justified. Like Afghanistan after 9/11, going after the Taliban who took credit for it, that could be considered justified.
Right. But
Iraq,
Iraq was just horrible.
not so much after 9/11.
Yeah.
The first one, we were defending Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it was Kuwait.
That was over Kuwait, and that was over, we actually were fine with Iraq taking Kuwait because Kuwait was being a dick with their oil drills. They drilled sideways. They went under Iraq into Iraq's oil reserves, started taking it. So, yeah, when Iraq took Kuwait, we were like, okay, take Kuwait.
Oh, wait, hold on. I didn't know that. Say that again.
Oh, yeah.
They Kuwait was drilling into Iraqi oil?
Yeah, you know how the border goes down to the center of the earth of the countries, right?
Yeah.
So, when Kuwait was drilling, their drills weren't going straight down on their side of the border. They crossed their border and hit Iraqi oil reserve.
Oh.
Right. So, of course, Saddam, horrible person that he was looking out for his country at that point in time, and he attacked Kuwait. Said, hey, quit it. And we were like, Kuwait's basically the size of a city anyway. They did you wrong. Have at it. Just stop at Saudi Arabia. Well, guess what? They didn't. They tried to keep going, and that's when we started in 91.
Right.
So that's when George Sr. said, hey, we're going to take us into the Gulf War, the Gulf conflict, and then the Gulf War. That was one. Okay. Then we went back, and I have because of this weapons of mass destruction that were never found. They were never found. Nobody ever found these supposed weapons of mass destruction. We went in, we took them out, and we killed them. Well, guess what that does? That leaves this big old vacuum for ISIS. Right. Where did ISIS come from? We made it.
Right.
We made it. Between Hezbollah, taking out the Taliban, and taking out Saddam Hussein, and then Lebanon, Muammar Gaddafi. Let's not forget that guy we took out too. What does all that add up to? The vacuums of power that made ISIS.
Now, do you think that that's one of the reasons why the states constantly is in this state of war, is so they could go back to the government and say, listen, we need that whatever $30 billion a year contract because, we need these weapons made, like look at China now. China is making serious, they're our next threat. So we need to, and they'll always go back to history and say, look how the Roman Empire fell. Once their military fell, they got walked on. I'm not saying I'm saying, is the states using that as an excuse to say that's why we're constantly at war because,
well, I think there might be some truth to that. There might be some truth to the justification. When I was in the military, Clinton was in office, and I was deployed to a peacekeeping mission in Macedonia. And what was going on with Macedonia is Serbia was rearing its ugly head. It was right after Yugoslavia broke up and
Croatia and stuff like that.
Right. And what, I don't know if you remember your history too much, but it was the Serbian nationalists that started World War I.
Yeah.
So Serbia is known for being kind of a cunt. So they were being a cunt to Bosnia and Herzegovina. They were being a cunt to everyone around them. So we went in and said, well, Macedonia wants to split off. Greece is willing to help us. So are a bunch of other countries, and we're going to see if we could get Macedonia away from Serbia without bloodshed, and we were successful. So that's what we were doing there. It's possible to go and do things without firing a shot. Do we need the display of force? Yes. Do we need to go and kill people and actually no, I don't think we need to do that. I think there's better ways to go about what we're doing.
Right.
And leaving these vacuums of power and tearing down infrastructure and not helping build it again, that's definitely not the way to go about things. If you look at some of these places that used to have a history of beautiful cities, and now those cities are nothing but burned out hulks, it's no wonder those people hate us. You know what I'm saying?
Of course. Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, when you leave a city, like, I mean, I knew, uh, Iraq, uh, Iraq was, had really, I was like, there's, there, you pretty much left, girls there were getting raped. I mean, you had the reason why Saddam was in power and he was such a bastard was because he knew what he was dealing with. But once he fell, you had, what is it, the Ba'ath Party go up against uh, the other party that's there. They can't stand each other, and for some reason, Americans didn't know. They just thought that if you're a Muslim, you're Muslim. But there's two branches. There's the Ba'ath and the, forget the other one. What's it called?
It goes back to the Shiite and the Sunni.
That's it. That's it. So they can't stand each other. So they ended up fucking, with this civil war, because you've taken out the biggest bully in the school yard was Saddam. You take him out, you got these other imbecile bullies that ended up just mangling each other. And I mean, I don't think the States has yet released how many. I'm pretty sure it's got to be over, 200,000 to 300,000, maybe 500,000 Iraqis have died horrible deaths at the hands of when the States pulled out. Horrible fucking things have happened. Now, if I was the States, I mean, I know those people live in hell, and you could say the same thing about. I don't think they lived in the same hell that Kim Jong Un or Kim Jong Il does to his people now. But if you go there and you destroy an infrastructure, you better have a plan to not just bunk out and take off. Like, you got to have a plan to. The problem was with the States was that they went there, they kicked the living shit. They got rid of Saddam, and they were like, okay, take care. They tried to help, and they were like, oh, why don't they like democracy, and why don't they? And it's like, you know what? It's a different. It's like going to another country, and I could sit there and say, here, eat this, and my favorite pastry is a cannoli, and my wife hates cannoli, and I'm just stunned. I'm like, how do you not like that? And I just don't like it. I think it's disgusting. I'm like, are you serious? How do you not like that? So I think when the States went there, they were just stunned that why aren't these people, well, they put that imbecile in charge. He was who ended up, he ended up, I don't know if he was a Ba'athist or what he was, but the person that the States put in charge ended up murdering and rounding up his enemies and having them killed. And I mean, if your brother was murdered, you want blood yourself, so you're gonna hate them. And so it's just this nonstop cycle of just hate, kill, hate, kill, hate, and kill. That the States have left them in this this merry-go-round that the batteries don't ever seem to be dimming on these things. There's just nonstop hatred going on there of each other, not only
Right.
of the states. I mean, when I was in Europe in 1986, they used to call me, I would say Canadian, and they would say, "You're Americano." They used to call me American. And I just never understood that. There was like, I go, "You never heard of Canada? You've never heard of?" No, they didn't. They,
Theoretically, yes, you are an American, but you are not what people think of when people say
well, the hatred that I was
American.
facing when I was
Right.
there was like, I was just like, "What are you talking about?" Like when
It's
I was,
directed toward people of the United States.
yeah, and I was just like, "Don't you? Why do you hate the states so much?" And they just think you guys poke your noses in everyone's fucking business. You guys, uh, that's what I would get, and I'm like, I don't poke my nose in anybody's business, but I would listen to them, and it was just thinking, man, the visceral hatred that these countries would have towards the states is just weird.
Well, when
And
I
then
was the
you
I
know what I
was
come you'd come home and then you'd go you kind of go, there's people who are crazy until you get a little older and you see, oh, now I know what they're talking about, why they hate the state so much.
well, the only place I noted that in '90s, I mean, and maybe I was just reading people incorrectly, um, was in France.
Which is weird because they got a huge
And yeah, it is.
migrant, very weird because they
That
like
was
Jerry Lewis too, so that is fucked up too.
well, it's weird, and it wasn't France, but it was Paris specifically. But it's to me, it was like maybe I was just perceiving the Parisians as arrogant, but it was. But we did. I hate to keep going back to World War II, but we did them a very big favor. It's although we did it wasn't altruistic by any stretch of the word, because if Hitler had kept going, he would have been knocking on our doorstep eventually.
Right.
But we helped them out in World War II. We helped out Europe, and it's like, okay. But after that, what happened? We started putting bases over there. We started sticking our nose out.
But I could see why, and that's why the states had become such a superpower. If the states did not do put bases there, they would not be the superpower they are today.
Well, yeah, and you have to look at it. People see people in the United States tend to look at the as at Russia as across big vast oceans like the Pacific. They tend to forget that really Russia is one country away, Canada, and the North Sea isn't exactly the Arctic Ocean rather isn't exactly a huge ocean. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
No,
you're in
I know.
Canada, and I was talking to somebody from Canada the other day, and they're saying no, the biggest fear in Canada was that those missiles were going to hit each other, and we were going to have missile parts rain down on us.
Right.
And it's like, oh,
But I've
most
always
people,
said this. I've always said this, and I'm like this. The states could give two shits about Canada if there is a nuclear. But if bombs were to come over, I mean, they would try to stop them. But I mean, if what do you think? Like, we've got to defend our own borders. Which I was really pissed off when I found out about the Avro plane that we built. We had a great plane and we scrapped that because the state said, no, we don't want you to build that. You don't need to buy that. You don't need to make an amazing plane. I thought, yeah, Canadian, just what a stupid thing. Just, no, the states will look after you. And in wartime, nobody looks after you. The people just look after their own, you know?
yeah.
So I know the uh, uh, I know we're all over with the topic, but that's what I mean. I mean, the problem is uh, media makes it seem like uh, if you read too much into it, you kind of look at the media and you just think the world's nuts.
Well, but they don't show how truly nuts it is. Like they're saying they're more worried about Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the national anthem than they're worried about the people dying overseas fighting for the country that they're talking about the national anthem.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The people going to Afghanistan and going to these countries to die for their country, they're not worried about them. They're not showing. There's no reporters. There's no field reporters anymore. They don't go and do that stuff anymore. You know, they don't go and get the scoop. No, that doesn't happen. No, they're more worried about trivia, minutia, what Trump tweeted off his toilet in the middle of the night.
I know that is so weird. Like, but the yeah, that is very confusing. I don't get like, and you know what? To me, Trump, I could see why Trump uses Twitter is because he doesn't trust what CNN or any network except Fox puts out on him. So I think he does that, but I think he does it a little too much. But I think he's like, when you're a billionaire, I think people forget this. Unless you're a billionaire, I guess you could, you'd understand. But there I go, me. A lot of people don't know, but I am a billionaire. But uh, um, that loves wearing track pants with a hole right where the pecker is. Uh, it's hilarious. People are just they just enjoy watching me take out the trash. I don't. I actually yell at my illegal. He's from El Salvador, so I yell at him, and I speak to him in Swahili, so it doesn't make any sense. I know, but uh, he's a billionaire, and people don't. He doesn't care when you've been brought up with that much money, and you got you've never you get whatever you want, right? I mean, the guy, if he wants to screw some girl, he's like, I want to screw that girl. We live in a day and an age where people will do anything for money. So it's like that's where I think that whole grab him by the pussy, they love it, came from, because I think he's like, I don't think he has a woman will sit there and say, uh, uh, oh, he grabbed me by the pussy. I think he said it to kind of to that what is that style, Ryan Seacrest or whatever guy. I think he said it to him just to kind of like I've met some pretty famous people, and they'll say something absolutely weird and kind of funny just to throw you off, just to go, holy shit, the guy's normal. It's kind of funny to listen to a billionaire to say something like that. And I think Trump just could care less what people or anybody says. I think it's the same thing that, he reminds me of Caligula. Honestly, where Caligula brought his horse in and made him part of the Senate, and people go, well, he was crazy. And I go, no, he wasn't. I go, he did that just to tell people this is how much I think of your opinion is worth. My horse's ass is worth more. I'd rather listen to my horse's ass than what you have to say. And that's what a Donald Trump is to me. He could care less what anybody says to him. He just doesn't care. When you're that rich, he was like, remember Ross Perot?
Yeah.
Remember how insane Ross Perot was? Now, if you thought Donald Trump was insane, Ross Perot was like completely out of his fucking mind, that old man. But he was a billionaire, so he could say these ridiculous, idiotic things. But when you got that much money, you live in a different world. And I think that's where people don't understand Trump. Trump just doesn't have anybody that is going to come to him and say, "Yeah, you can't say that." And he's like, "You never ever." I think that's why he fires so many people, because I think they stick up to him and they say, "Yeah, Mr. Trump, Mr. President, you cannot do that." And he's like, "Well, you're fired." I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like. How dare you even question my genius? I'm the president, And I think he really does think the bad part of Trump. I think he really thinks he is the smartest guy in the room, because he's a billionaire. I do. And I think that is just the wrong approach going, I wish that wasn't the case, but, that's the way I see it. That's the way I feel that that's why Trump is the way he is because he really doesn't care what you think or if what your opinion means nothing.
Well, and that's his hubris. That's his, it's it's he doesn't have the self-awareness to say I got to where I am because
Daddy, yeah,
I may
daddy
have
gave me daddy gave me
a cool million,
yeah, which he turns into $1 billion. But I think there's
and not through some necessarily through some not necessarily above board means either.
yes.
So let's put that one out there too. I mean, how many bankruptcies are we talking about? Yeah, bankruptcies make you rich while everybody else pays the price. That's how that
Right,
works.
right.
So
And but Dave, do you understand what I mean by when you got that much money and you always know you're gonna at least be worth $1 billion? Like, holy fuck, $1 billion. Think about that.
if I had $1 billion, I would quit my job. I would buy a house. I mean, I would, I would probably spend it all because I wouldn't know what the hell to do with it.
No,
No, I don't think I would. I wouldn't. I'm
no,
just saying.
everybody does that. They're like, I knew a guy who just won $34.5 million, and he is gone off the face of the earth and never heard, he's gone. And this is a guy I grew up with, where I kind of, and he's gone. Uh, and that's not even, that's not $1 billion. That's only $35 million. But still, $1 billion is more money than any one person should be allowed to have. Because I mean, that is just, it's sickening. It's perverted. You have people in India fucking going through sewers to try and find little pieces of fucking gold or whatever, and meanwhile this guy is a fucking billionaire, is kind of sick, you know.
It
Uh,
is perverse because if somebody can live like he does while people are starving, there's something wrong there.
oh
But
yeah, if you get every billionaire or on the planet and you tell them give a certain percentage of that billions to help, build more hospitals, help the sick, help children in need, special need children, or anything. God, I keep saying God. I think I'm agnostic atheist or whatever. So please don't think when I say God, it's just because I'm used to saying God. I grew up Catholic, but that's where I just get this whole God thing where I go, like, even my buddy that won the 35 and a half, like, put it this way, he's been all quiet. Bubba over here. Bubba was gonna, he was coming. I won't say the amount, but he was gonna make some money, okay, off of a relative that was gonna pass. And Bubba says to me, he goes, "You drive a piece of shit." And he goes, I'm gonna buy you a car, but it's not gonna be a new car. It'll be a safe car for you." And I just thought, and I got in my car afterwards, and I teared up because I just thought that was such a sweet thing to have somebody do. And I told him, I said, "No, you keep that money's your money. You need it. You know, that's yours."
Yeah.
But it just shows like, fuck, here's a guy who just, he didn't, there's nowhere near 35 million dollars, and he's like, I'll buy a vehicle, you need one. And it's like, so it depends on the person. Um, and I never even grew up with Bubba, and I don't even, Bubba and us, we've only had sex 3 times. So it's very odd.
I saw a video of a guy walk into a restaurant, and he went up to a bunch of people, I think having pizza, like a family, and he just went up to them and asked them if he could have some of their food, and they just looked at him like he was crazy and told him to get lost. And the same guy, they filmed him. He goes out and I think someone like they planted it. He gave a homeless guy like the same box of pizza, and then he goes up to the homeless guy and sits beside him and says, "Would you mind if I have a slice of pizza?" And the guy gives him a slice.
Yes.
I was like blown away. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's
Yes. You know why? Because the homeless guy knows what it's like to be starving.
Well, you know what I always wanted to do, like if I were to win big, it's like go get the crappiest clothes I could find at a secondhand store. Like just spend next to nothing on them, right? Just and then go to like a Mercedes dealer.
Oh, that's been done. That's been done. That's a true story by I believe it wasn't David Lee Roth, but it was a very famous singer. He went into a Ferrari dealership. Sorry to cut you off. Go on, say it, Dave.
I was gonna, or a McLaren dealer, or some,
Not McLaren. Fuck McLaren. Go on.
Or exotic sports car, doesn't matter. But just go in there and see if they'll give you the time of day.
Well, I'll tell you a true story, okay? And there's 2 of them here because when me and my dad had the bakery, I remember a guy came in with ripped jeans and he looked like shit and he didn't shave. And I said, "Dad," and I was putting bread in the oven, and I said, "Dad, look at this fucking guy. We got to give this guy a free meal." And my dad looks over and he's like, "Jesus, that guy looks rough." So I went and made him a coffee. He wanted an espresso. I made him an espresso. And then I went back to the back room to put more bread in the oven. And I hear this loud, like a roar. And I was like, "What the hell is that?" And I look outside the bakery windows and there's a group of people. I'm like, "Dad, what's going on here?" And me and my dad walk up to the front of the bakery, and it was the same guy, and he was getting in his Lamborghini Countach, and he was he had to open up his window, not open up his window, his door to back up because he drove straight in. And anyways, it was just like, it's one of those things, you never judge a book by its cover. And me and my dad were like, shit, we should have mugged him, but yeah, it's the same thing with, there was a singer, I can't remember the rock star. If anybody knows, leave it in the comments. But it was a rock star, and he walked into a Ferrari dealership, and none of the guys, nobody talked to him, except for the girl that worked there, that worked the front. She was a receptionist. And then the owner of the place, he walked in there and said, "Hey, how are you?" And I forget, it wasn't David Lee Roth, but he's like, "How are you?" And, "Good, good." And he goes, that car there, that Ferrari, I want that that Ferrari there, and because he asked the guys at the dealership, can he test drive the car? And they all laughed at him and said, no, you can't fucking touch that car. So he was like, oh, okay, I can't touch that car. That's fine. And when that happened, that's when the owner was there and said, hey, what's up? How you doing? And he said, I want that Ferrari there. I want it in black. And I want the money that would go to any of the salespeople to go to the girl that greeted me at the front and said hi to me.
Yeah.
You know, so she got like $7,000 for, because I believe it was a Testarossa or something. So it was like she got quite a bit of money, and it was like, again, the idiots judged a person by the way they look instead of what they are, you know, and that's sad. So, anyways, getting back to the news thing, how do we, as a society, I mean, we don't have, like, you watch the news networks and they are shrinking, and I believe the Oscars are shrinking, and I think people just don't give a shit anymore, because it's just getting to the point where we get it. You hate Trump. I get it. Another political trope. It's, you know, and we hate, you know, brown people are evil or whatever. We get it. Ha ha. You know, it's just like, it's getting to the point where people are just, after a while, you just switch it off. Like I used to watch the Oscars, and now I could give two shits about the Oscars. And another thing I wanted to throw in: who thinks the Shape of Water is really Splash?
The Shape of Water is Splash?
Yeah, remember the movie Splash?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same fucking movie. Only I'd rather be sleeping with, you know, all these women that they thought I was trolling them, and I'm like, they're like, Splash and The Shape of Water are pretty much the same movie, and they're like, no, it's not. Shape of Water is a beautiful movie.
I've never seen Shape of Water, so I'd have to go look at it.
Anyways, watch it and watch Splash, and you go, it's the same movie.
Well, Splash was one of my most favorite movies because, you know,
yeah, Daryl Hannah. Yeah, but
Daryl Hannah's in there. She's hot, and Tom Hanks is sitting there looking like an idiot soaking in water. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, John Candy was in it, Eugene Levy, but watch the movie again and watch Splash, and then watch The Shape of Water, and all these women are going, it's a beautiful movie. And I told these women, going, it's such a beautiful woman. Would you suck that calamari's dick? I mean, the guy looked like the fucking, like, remember Hellboy? remember the movie Hellboy?
Yeah.
Okay, well, remember there was the other guy, there was the other creature, the blue, the one that could swim?
Oh, kind of.
I think his name was Abe Sapien or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, that's The Color of Water. That creature is actually uglier than the Hellboy one. So, and it's by the same director. So anyways, and I tell these women, I'm like, would you sleep with that fucking fish? Like, with that, honestly, I mean, I'd sleep with Daryl Hannah with that flipper, or without the flipper, I would, you know, believe me. But God, that's what I mean. Like, that's why, you know, I do that retro show. It's just because I miss. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or whatever, but I remember. I think of Cronkite. Is Cronkite still alive?
I think so.
He must watch the news and think this is the most disgusting and stupidest thing. Like, this is not the news anymore.
No.
You know, like, the news should be, like, if I, you know, I've always said this, the news should be, even if I hate the person, it should be biased. Okay? Be biased and let the viewer come up with their own conclusions to the story. People aren't that dumb, but, you know, if you watch the shows where they'll have a guest and you could tell they don't like the guest, they'll ask them these have you beaten your wife? When was the last time you beaten your wife? They'll ask them these questions that, aren't, it's not going to go well for the interviewer. So, and to me, I never remember the news when growing up. I don't remember the news being so brutal towards it's, if you were to interview, it seems like guys, when they interview somebody, like, just say it's a Democratic, you could tell it's a Democratic reporter interviewing a Republican. It is like watching not a cat fight, but you're watching a mini battle take place.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way.
Just for reference, Cronkite died in 2019 or 2009 rather.
Sorry. Oh, 2019. I'd be like, he died in 2019, huh?
No, he died in 2009 at age 92.
Oh, he was great. When I was in Disneyland, I went on Space Mountain with Ric Flair, and it would play him. He would talk about, he would narrate, and he had such a cool voice. But he I mean, he was the last of the great reporters, and there was that famous. Remember, he gave this the news of when Kennedy was shot, and he took off his glasses, and that was when men did not show any emotion whatsoever. It was a very emotional. Even if you watch it today, I still get a little emotional because you know that he was he didn't want to get upset about him, what happened to Kennedy. But yeah, news was never like this. News was never, I mean, my kid asked me, I remember this was like when Trump won, so he was 7, and he's like, "Is Donald Trump a bad person, Dad?" And I go, I don't know. He kind of threw me off because I'm like, he's 7 years old and he's asking this. And I go, no, I don't think he's a bad person. I just a lot of people don't like him. And he goes, well, I like him. And I go, well, why do you like him? And he's like, I don't know, I just like him. And I go, you don't even know who he is. And he goes, yeah, but everybody at school talks about what a bad person he is. And what my son did is he looked him up on YouTube and just saw him and just thought, there's nothing evil about this man. Like, nothing, you know what I mean? Like, nothing, there was nothing there that put fear into him. And I'm like, maybe, you're talking to a 7-year-old kid. So my son didn't see the, some of the things that Trump, said or did, but to me, I think the news should be like, not to scare you. The news should be, unless it's a legitimate scare, the news should be as biased as possible. And if you don't like Trump, then you should get out of the news business and, be behind the camera, because you've got guys like Don Lemon and that other idiot, the white guy who's, you could tell, is kind of mentally challenged. What's his name? Starts with a C. He is as dumb as a door. Like, just, what is his name? The Bubba, you know what I'm talking about. The guy on CNN. He's as dumb as fucking. What's his name? Starts with a C. Do you know what I'm talking about, Dave?
Let me look him up, because I'm sure if you go to CNN, you can see their wonderful panel of social justice warriors.
He starts with a C, and anyways, he's the worst interviewer. Like, he's just so and he gets made fun of by his own, like, people that work there, producers and the camera people and people in the back, they all make fun of him. They all think he's an imbecile. What's his name? Fuck, I can't remember his name. Anyways, so, and that to me is like, whenever I see him interviewing a Republican, it is war. Or he'll say something idiotic, or, and you're just going, why can't you just let people make up their own mind? And you when you call people bigots, or, Trump is a racist, and people that aren't racist that did vote for Trump, that just makes them angrier. That makes people, it's like me saying, Dave, I want you to vote for this person. Why? Because if you don't vote for them, Dave, you're racist. Do you understand me? You're a complete racist. Do you not understand what this man wants? This man's going to start World War III, and you're going to be part of it if you vote for him. Now, I know you didn't vote for him, but when I'm just using you as an example, as saying, when people are told what to do and told in a way of like how you speak to your dog, this is what you're going to do, people will do the opposite.
Yeah.
And that's what the news networks need to figure out is, you catch more flies with shit than you do with, oh, I fucked that one up. Bubba, how's it go? You catch more flies with shit. No, you really do catch more flies with shit.
I think it's sugar.
No. You catch more bees with honey. You catch flies with shit. So, anyways, if you're, if you, you don't need to be nice and just be a complete total marshmallow, but if you just tell the news, like, what's his name? Trapper, from, Don Trapper from, is he on CNN? Don Draper? Is it Don Draper? He did a great job interviewing the sheriff about, those kids that got massacred, and saying you don't have any blame whatsoever for those poor kids that, like that's your job, man. That's what you do for a living. You're a police officer. I mean, if I was a police officer, fucking, and I didn't run into a building with kids being massacred, what the fuck? I think one of the parents would kill me. That's your job. It's like being a fireman and you're sitting outside, it's like, what do you guys want to do? Get some marshmallows, guys. You're a fucking fireman. Go put out the fire. That's the job, right? That's part of the job. Sorry. And that's why we consider them to be brave, and we hold them up to a higher standard. Whenever you see a fireman or somebody that is brave, that they do deserve a level of respect, because they do the opposite. Most people, when there's a fire, people run away from a fire. These guys are running towards the fire. That is insanity if you think about it. But that's their job, and that's what they want to do. They want to put out the fire. Same thing with, people. That's why we congratulate people in the military. When there's a battle going on, U.S. soldiers don't run the other way. They don't. They go the other way. They go towards the line of fire, and some of them get off on it because they're like, that's what they do. If you got an average person in battle, they would freeze and probably just roll up in a fetal position and just hope it'll be over quickly. But a professional soldier would never behave like that. Most of them, I'm sure 99.9 do not behave like that.
Well, that's kind of the point of the training, is so that
the point of the training is to kind of tell you that if to kind of it breaks you down mentally, and you just follow the orders. Yeah, that's how you get a guy to jump out of a fucking plane. I mean, you just jump. You don't even think. They make you jump. You jump out of that plane. You do, and you could be scared of heights, deathly as scared. of heights, and I know people. I've been on, a Trenton or Hercules plane when they open up the back. Now we didn't jump out of it, but they opened it up, and I just thought, fuck, if they say, you got to jump, you jump. You hook up and you jump, and there's no. I remember there was a girl right in front of me, and she puked about 6 or 7 times, and every time she would puke, because the doors were open, it was fucking nailing everybody. That was the only thing that was pissing me off. So it was like I was like, I wish we could jump so we could get away from this fucking puke.
Well, I went to air assault when I was in the Army, and that's rappelling out of a helicopter. That's always fun. You get this equipment. I mean, it was fun. I'm not gonna lie, it was fun, but it was physically demanding.
Right.
And
well, you're a big man. You are a very. You must be about 6'4".
I was 6'4" then. I'm 6'2" now. I'm facing the shrink.
Oh no, I get that with a penis. I hate that.
But yeah, you get out there, and the helicopter's 50 feet above the ground, and your rope's 40 feet long.
Right.
What are you supposed to do for the last 10 feet? Oh, you're just supposed to fall.
Right.
Yeah, you don't actually get a rope that goes all the way to the ground, because that would let enemies get back up into the helicopter. You can't have that.
Right.
So you just get to fall.
We got to have you land with broken kneecaps.
Yeah.
So that no, but you know what? When you're doing it, they don't give you enough time to be scared.
No, you go out, you rappel down, and you get to the end of your rope, literally, and you undo your harness or whatever, And
yeah, it's this simple. And I tell people what it's like. It's like this: if I tell you that you're going to have open heart surgery in a month, you kind of you're like, oh you're like, oh fuck, and that whole month leading up, you start having panics. But if I tell you, if people just show up and go, you need open heart surgery, okay, when? Right now. Right really, now.
We're giving you the Vicodin,
yeah.
We're giving you the Versed now, and you'll be done before you know it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And that's it. That's how the military works. And it doesn't give you enough time to think about it. Because if you thought about it, your behavior would be totally different. And they don't want your behavior to be totally different. They want it to be just comply. You do what you're told. That's why the States is a scary. Why people, the biggest superpower out there is the United States, because they do have an incredible, powerful army.
Well, and here's the thing. The entire education system changed for the World War II era, and it might have been changed for after World War I era. I think it was, because that was like, everybody works for the war effort. Let's build the planes, let's build the equipment, yada, yada, yada. So the entire effort of building equipment, the whole purpose of school was to train you to do manufacturing jobs.
Right.
You learned just enough math in high school, think about it, so that you could go out and run a metal lathe or work in some kind of airplane manufacturing or tank manufacturing or whatever. And that was it. That's as far as that went. The critical thinking skills, how many people learned that in high school? I didn't. I had to go to college to learn most of my critical thinking skills.
Right.
And it's kind of sad. I mean, you start, if you really want to learn it in high school, you could take those as electives, but most people didn't. They took shop, or they took art, or they took the easy stuff.
Right.
and that was me included. I took wood shop. I got into electronics in high school, thank God, and computers, because that helps with that stuff. But that's the beginning. That's not the end of that stuff. And that's what's missing. And I think the internet is part of the problem, but it's also going to be the solution, because I see these media houses like what CNN did to PewDiePie.
I never understood. I never followed PewDiePie. I didn't know what PewDiePie was. My son tried to explain it to me, and I was like, please don't ever say that name. It just makes me angry. So just the name PewDiePie. What is a PewDiePie? Explain to me this.
It's a YouTube channel. He's a YouTuber.
Okay. Right.
And he has 61,392,691 subscribers.
He has how many?
61,362,691 subscribers.
Holy fuck.
Yes.
I'm going to go subscribe to him now. Give me a second.
Don't. He's stupid. He's not worth it. Trust me.
How the fuck did he get 61 million point two with that number? Just how?
Because of his appeal to young audiences, and he trends and all this stuff, and he's just.
Oh, Bubba, could you imagine if we had that?
He does like reviews of video games, so people that are gamers and stuff, if they want to see what a game looks like before they buy it, and they want to be entertained at the same time, that's why he got so many people.
Right, and he does a lot of really slapstick satire comedy.
Fuck, I can't believe that.
It's insane. Right. He posted a video 4 hours ago. 4 hours. And it has 815,000 views.
But so he's not political at all, right?
Ostensibly, no.
Okay, so how did CNN bring him? How did he get in trouble then?
Well, what happened is he paid these kids, or I don't know if they were kids or not. It doesn't really matter, but they were little Asian people in a country where they don't even speak English to hold up these anti-Semitic signs or Hail Hitler signs or something, and he videotaped them. And, they were jumping around saying, basically acting like it was the best thing since sliced bread, that they were waving this around.
So he's a Nazi sympathizer?
No, it was a joke. It was complete satire.
Okay.
Okay, so of course, CNN sees this and writes this and lambasts him, okay? So as soon as CNN does that, he had on the side, he was working a deal with Walt Disney World to try to do something or other to make some real money, because apparently 61 million monetized subscribers doesn't cut it. I don't know why. I don't know how that wouldn't get you ads, but whatever.
No, he must have made a fortune off of that.
Right. So, but
right?
if you,
Dave, like he must have made a fortune off of that.
Well, that's just it. Like CNN lambasting him just gave him more publicity. I think he had far less subscribers than he does now. He got more subscribers because of that fiasco. But what happened is, after that, is of course YouTube had to do something about it. Right?
Right.
Adpocalypse. That's where it came from. So anybody talk to any YouTuber about Adpocalypse and everything, that's all the fallout that's happened since then, that's the catalyst event.
I don't understand Adpocalypse. What do you mean?
Adpocalypse was when a bunch of advertisers pulled out of YouTube and they started demonetizing channels.
Okay, so yes, I never understood that part of it. Because I don't do PayPal or anything like that, so I didn't know any of that stuff. So people were making money, like guys like Angry Grandpa, for instance, right? They would make money off of how many subscribers, right? So
Right. Like even Steve McRae could go in and with his modest subscriber base and make a certain amount of money. After the apocalypse, after all these advertisers pulled out of YouTube, all of a sudden like their incomes were cut in half overnight.
well, I heard more than that. They
Oh
they were
yeah,
they
it
were
was
like
worse.
it was way worse than that.
And
But
then that was just the start. Then they did this demonetizing thing where they were looking for any excuse to take the monetization that was on videos that already existed off. Like the bots would come through and all the videos on your channel that had been monetized in the past, some of them for years in some cases, suddenly went into demonetized state. And you had to go back and appeal them all individually. And sometimes they wouldn't get remonetized. Sometimes they get remonetized and then get demonetized right away again. It's just a
right,
huge mess because of this one event. And YouTube, instead of supporting their creators, saying, "Well, if you don't want to advertise on a platform with 61 million people watching this one person, and instead want to appeal to a platform where CNN only has 3 million people watching it on YouTube." That's a comparison I just made.
right.
61 million versus 3 million. That's how big of a difference their subscriber. That's one person versus the entirety of CNN. I think that's a big problem big media doesn't see. They don't see the internet as competition because they still think people are buying cable and watching it on their TVs. Well, guess what? The more and more people I talk to don't have a cable package. I
Yeah,
don't.
I don't either. I don't. I stopped over. It's been over 2 years now, and
Mhm.
I'll never go back. And I love it because I'll have like them calling me up with begging to come back, and I'm like, no. Like, are you going to give me my cable for free? Because I don't need you.
That's the only thing. That's the only way you could ever get me to get it again. I went and bought an aerial antenna for $20. It gets me local weather. That's all I need my TV to do. Is give me
Right,
the local weather. That's all I need the tuner in my TV to do. The
right,
rest of it is just a monitor for my computer.
right. And
And
people have figured that out. People have well, the people like I could get my. I mean, yeah. So this it's amazing that PewDiePie had 61 million. I can't get over that. So he must have made over $1 million a year.
I'm sure. And
For
that
sure.
doesn't even count. Like I don't even know if he has Patreon. Let me look. Like if I look at his channel.
Sure. Well, I need to go use the toilet ski. Bubba, take over. I'm gonna here. How do I have it that Dave, you're in charge there? Talk to
Click
Bubba.
the little control room button there on the
Okay.
upper left.
So you are now present to
Share.
everyone.
No, just share
Happy toileting.
controls.
I'm sorry. What's that, Bubba?
Happy toileting.
Okay.
Just click the control room button on the right left or excuse me on the left hand side in the pop out menu,
Okay.
which should change
Control room. Yeah. Got it.
change the group chat into the control room. And then there's little arrows on those. One should say share controls next to my name.
Control room to yours. Share controls. There you go.
Boom.
All right.
Now I can do it.
I'm gonna mute myself, and I'll be right back. Baba, say something for fuck's sakes.
Right. You've been here for how long?
That's your symbol, the symbol of what is it, Taoism?
It's yin yang. I was like, I got to pick something that's consistent with Boolean, which is true and false.
What's that?
Boolean is true false. Boolean logic. So it always works out as a dichotomy.
This is your belief system?
No, it's what I do for a living. It has to do with electronics and computers.
Oh,
So yeah,
kind of like the ones and the zeros.
the ones and the zeros exactly. So
Binary.
it's like yin yang. Hey, that kind of true false yin yang. There you go.
Is that what you mean, like binary?
Yeah.
Wow, my brain can't handle that.
Sure, it can. It can handle 10. It could certainly handle 2.
Yeah, I guess. I'm just saying, I don't know if I have I don't know what it is, the patience or I don't know. There's something that I lack. It's like if somebody said to me, you know, you want to be a dentist and constantly looking in people's mouths. I don't
See,
think
I couldn't handle that shit.
that's what I'm saying. Just the thought of doing that, even for a day, I'm like, oh, fuck, I can't even imagine it.
That would drive me freaking nuts.
I know, but when you say binary, that's what comes to my mind. Is I'm like, I can't even.
But see, when you look at the actual electronics of it, it's not that uninteresting, and how all that stuff works.
Oh no, you could spend your whole life just studying how a tree works. Like, that's the problem. There's so many interesting things to research, and yet, you only have so much time. So, yin yang. Here, you can tell Beto this when he comes back. There's a lot of. I've listened to some of the flat earthers trying to figure out why are they so adamantly going on about this. You with me?
Yeah.
And they look at the sun and the moon as like a flying disc that kind of is within our atmosphere. And if you look at it from the top down, it actually looks like the yin yang.
Yeah, they think stuff like that, and they also think the UN map is an accurate one. The UN flag map.
The thing that I can't understand is if you take the position that the moon is a flat disk, then I don't understand how you work in the waxing and waning of it. The only thing that I could try and grasp that they're talking about is that the moon is concave, so that when it's spinning, you're actually seeing like the inner dark side of the moon because it's just a
right.
But it doesn't. Even if you take the solar thing, where the moon is flying around the Earth or orbiting, it makes no sense that we always see the same side of the moon.
And why is it that
it should be spinning like everything?
Why
else?
is it that two people in different locations would see the same phase?
That's what I'm saying. How is that even possible?
It's not. I mean, I sit there and I actually moderate there's a guy who runs a 24/7 anti-flat Earth channel, basically. He's done some incredible work over Lake Pontchartrain, where there's some really visible curvature if you get the right photography equipment. And some flat earthers come in there and just say, they come in, oh, this is CGI, it's nonsense, it's fake, all this stuff. And you get into some really interesting conversations with them.
Well, and then the other thing that they brought up that I thought was interesting is they said, how can, if a spaceship or wherever, a shuttle leaves Earth and goes up into the atmosphere and penetrates the atmosphere and goes into outer space, if outside of space is a complete, there's no oxygen, there's no air, then what is the shuttle pushing off of? Because there's nothing to push off of. Thrusters would be useless. And the other problem is that if you puncture the atmosphere, then why doesn't it, like if you punctured a balloon, it should just suck all the air right out of the whole planet?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are like real problems. And what they're saying is that there's like and you've seen it in tons of movies, like the War Games or whatever that was called, with the girl who gets selected as a sacrifice in her community or whatever that was called. They have like a dome that goes over the whole thing. And then I tried to figure out, I was like, why would they go to such great lengths if there was a dome and this was a flat surface, why would they go to such great lengths to cover up the dome? And they're saying that it's because people would want to know, well, why is there a dome? Who made the dome? They would start a whole bunch of questions that they couldn't answer. And then on top of it, this other guy was going on about if that ever came into like the mainstream knowledge that this was the case, then NASA would no longer need to be funded anymore, and all those people would lose their jobs. Then there'd be all these court battles over all the fraud that was done because they went and faked all this shit. And it's like a lie that eventually will have to, I guess, come crashing down, if that's the case. But it is interesting to think about, because they said, like, even in a, you know, the oxygen, the air has to be contained, otherwise it would escape. So there has to be something physically holding it all in. So,
well, that's because they don't believe gravity exists. They think it's all about the density of the object that causes it to come down. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because...
Yeah, the problem with gravity is if you go outside on a cold day and you just breathe your air, how is it that gravity is strong enough to hold me to the ground and yet not weak enough to let the air out of my mouth crystallize and float up?
Right.
Why doesn't it get pulled down? There's problem, you know what I mean?
Well,
how can gravity be so strong that it can hold a whole ocean of water weighing tons, and yet I can jump off the earth? You know what I mean?
Right. Well,
My strength.
That's because the ocean has far more mass than you. That's the reason. It gives mass, and gravity gives a vector. That's all it does.
Are you talking about flat Earth? Sorry.
Absolutely. Of course we're talking about flat Earth.
Where's Red when you need him? Doesn't it terrify you that more and more... I've never seen so many people... like, I watch this guy named Eddie Bravo talk about how... I'm sorry to interrupt the convo where you guys were going with it, but Eddie Bravo talks about how he was watching documentaries and everything was coming from NASA. So it must be fake, because NASA controls everything and they need that money, that 80 million or whatever $1 billion they get every year funding. So they fake pictures, and I'm like, I don't know how many shots of the head you've gotten, man. And I've been listening to Red's the last week or so, him getting into it with flat earthers, and it's disturbing.
It is.
Like I said, the only thing that really poked my brain was, like I said, if a space shuttle punctures through the atmosphere, how does the outer space not suck all the air out of the Earth?
But there's no big, great separation.
There's no glass ceiling there. There's no, like...
You know what I'm saying, though? If you have a contained, like a glass, like a bowling ball that's empty and it's full of air, and then you puncture that, you go through it, and they say that space is a vacuum. How would it not just basically suck all the air out of, just like Spaceballs?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. But here's the thing, that every time there is a flight that when the Challenger or whatever, I know the Challenger blew up, that's a bad in that. Anyways, whenever they would go in and out, they do cause holes, and that was in the atmosphere. They cause these holes that can't be repaired. But it's not like there is this bubble and then we are in a bubble, but it's not like the same type of bubble that flat earthers think. It's
the atmosphere is a gradient into space, and it eventually, I mean, it goes out there and gets thinner and thinner and thinner until it's so tenuous it's not detectable. That's basically the way that works.
And then when they show pictures of the shuttle using its blasters to propel itself around, if there's no oxygen and there's no air in space, then how is it pushing?
it's rockets don't need air to push against.
Yeah, like if
The expanding gas pushes against the interior of the
oh,
rocket.
fuck,
comes
Bubba,
out
you're
the
not a
nozzle.
flat earther, are you? Christ.
I'm saying, if you're
I'm gonna smash my head up against the wall right
I
now.
watched the show and they said that, like, if you watch like Star Wars and stuff, that because it's a vacuum, that when you would shoot a laser, like they show all the sound effects, but they said in space, in reality, if the laser was to shoot, there would be no sound waves because there's no.
Right. Well, there's no sound. It's like in Aliens. They said they know what you can't hear people scream in space.
I'm just saying that there's no sound. There's nothing to carry the sound waves. So really, when a laser's shot, you wouldn't hear anything.
Well, no, but that's a movie you're talking about.
Well, I understand. I'm just saying.
Like, it would be a pretty boring movie, believe me, if you were to watch Star Wars and they didn't have those sound effects. It would be like, you'd have Darth Vader going, "Why is it so quiet?" And they're like, "Darth, because it's space." And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Who's the sound effect guy? Can we get a sound effect guy? Because this is boring. This battle is boring."
You'd have a movie like Spaceballs.
No, you know what you would have? You'd have 2000. You'd have 2010: A Space Odyssey, or 2001 was it? Remember when they
Stanley Kubrick?
Yes, and you would have that, and that was a beautiful quiet.
3 hours of 70% silence.
Yes, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. That to me was when them going through space, or when the space shuttle, that little thing that they had, the little what is it? The
Discovery ship, yeah.
Yeah, that little thing where it had a couple of little arms on it and it didn't make any noise. That's space, guys. So Kubrick got it right.
Yeah.
Good old Kubrick.
Oh, I miss him.
He really had a gift for that.
Oh, he was great. He was the master of one of my favorite movies of all time is Clockwork Orange. So.
Oh, but that movie. The first time I went to go watch that, I had to stop just because of how it starts out.
Oh, it's disturbing.
It is.
It's incredibly.
But then I was like, okay, it's just a movie, David. Calm down. Go back and watch it. It gets better, I'm sure, and it does. But it's still disturbing.
It is incredibly disturbing. But that's reality. I'm sorry, but reality is disturbing.
Yes.
So getting back to the flat earther thing, that's the other thing. And I know we're all over and with the topic, but we can only talk about fake news so much. Like how can we get people to believe in the news? Or do you think that we're so far gone that that's never going to happen?
I think we become the news.
Well, do you think where people will, like you'll have guys like Sargon of Akkad, he'll say like there was a thing that happened over the weekend where and I keep calling what are they called?
Anita Sarkeesian?
No, Anafta, whatever they called.
Antifa?
Antifa, that's it. I feel like calling it Anita, but where they went in during a talk and they made a mess of it, and and he's just, even if you don't agree with the guy, there's that famous saying that even if I don't agree with what you're saying, I will fight to the death for your freedom to say it.
Right.
I love that saying because I think that's so true. And I think that you're becoming a child even if I don't agree. I didn't agree with fucking Adolf Hitler, but that's how you understand history and why shit turned out the way it did. You can't just say, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You got to say, well, what did he say? And then you're like, okay, he said this. And then, oh, okay, this makes sense. I understand why this happened, or why. how things happen. But when your narrative is blah 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 blah, I don't want to listen to you, blah 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 blah. You know, it's the same thing with the news. Unless you agree with us, you're an idiot, and that's what they would do to people. They would get them on camera, and you know, you know, we don't agree with it. They had a famous one where they had all these people come into the studio, and they thought that they were going to be all against Donald Trump, and what happened is that they liked Donald Trump, which totally blew away the host. The host was just stunned, like, what the hell would, like, who came up with this crap? So that's a huge problem in society, and I think that if people have to make their own news, then that gives you the power to kind of, if you have, just say, you know, like PewDiePie, 61,000 followers, 61 million followers, that gives you the power to say, you know, this game sucks, because you meet just say you go to a party and meet the guy that made the game, and you disagreed, you got into an argument with him, and then you have a channel that has that many views. You could use your channel to destroy this guy's business. To say his game sucks, it's a horrible game, worst game. Don't even bother playing the game. That if you're, you know, and people, you know, that's where, you know, that's a tightrope. That's a terrible, you know. Like, now I understand why the Oscars, people buy gifts for these fucking guys. They buy them gifts and shit, because, you know, for them to get votes or to win. You got to play this game. And people that don't, what I've heard is that people that don't give gifts or give, you know, kiss ass, or, you know, there was, you know, the Oscars, they could have came out 1,000,001 time and did a whole thing about Harvey Weinstein, and because half of them, how disgusting Harvey Weinstein of a person is, but half the people there would have been like, I kind of sucked his dick, so I'm not going to say anything bad about him. I mean, we're talking about, what was it, a couple of years ago during the Oscars, where people gave Roman Polanski, who anally raped a child, a standing ovation, and you could see Han Solo up there, Harrison Ford, just confused, like, just going like you could tell why, like James Woods doesn't get any work anymore, you know, because he's totally, you know, against that shit, and you could see why what's his name, one of my idols, Clint Eastwood, just thinks it's disgusting. Just the way the whole system is, like, to stand up and give a guy a standing ovation that should have gone to jail for what he did is just fucking insane.
Yeah, I think what you're gonna end up seeing is the people, us, are going to be the ones that make the news, like I said, because
no,
you've got your G-mans, you've got your Sargons, you've got your, you know, you've got your moderates, you've got your rational people like Steve and Dragnot. You got,
well, Steve's not rational. He's come on to me several times.
I don't know, but, you know,
I don't mind actually.
Eventually, it's going to sort itself out. Like I said, the internet is part of the problem, because you've got, they look at Flat Earth, you got all these people who suddenly can start you can find like-minded people really easy on the internet. Really easy. Oh, these people think the earth is flat too. There's a community. Boom.
Right.
You can share ideas. Oh, you don't like the way I think about this one thing? well, fuck off, and they're not part of your group anymore, right? So eventually it's going to sort itself out, and the internet is going to be the tool that sorts itself out. And eventually that's going to fix it's going to be a self-correcting mechanism, because what doesn't comply with reality will be brought into the light, made fun of, until the point where the people who are part of that group are going to say, okay, we get it, we're stupid, we're wrong, give up. Or they're just going to stay in their delusion until they die off, and no one else will join their delusion, and it will just go away. One of the two things will happen.
Right.
It's unfortunate that it will take that long, but I think it's an evolution in communications.
I read an article that said there was a doctor, and there was a bunch of doctors, and they were delivering babies, and babies kept dying and all this kind of stuff, like back in the day. And then he like researched why are these babies dying, and found out that they were like basically grabbing a bowl of water, and in between births and stuff, they were just dunking their hands in water and then going on to the next, and it was causing like bacteria or some kind of infection problems. So the doctors themselves were causing the problem by not doing proper hand washing. And the guy that brought it up to them, he got like excommunicated from his group of doctors, and they said that he was insane. And then so many years later now, it's just an accepted practice. So it just seems like every time there's somebody bringing something new forward, everybody mocks it and ridicules it. And then after they're dead or put into an insane asylum, then they're like, oh yeah, he was right.
Right. Well, and I mean, look at people sit there, and these people who believe in flat Earth. It's a conspiracy theory mentality. I'm actually having a show on Wednesday with Shannon Q on my channel.
What's plug the channel? What's the channel called?
It's Booleanator.
Can you put a link to it on the side here so people will know?
I don't have mods, but I'll give you.
I gave you the mods, did I not?
No, you did not.
Okay, hold on. Let me give you the mods, or because I know I'll screw it up. Hold on. Where is? I've got you on here, and then I'm at the control room, so I don't know why I can't.
Well, you need to do it. It's actually easier to do from the watch screen for this stream, because you just go to the live chat and click the three dots next to my chat and say add as moderator. Done. So if you find the show on your own channel and watch it, make sure you mute it so that you don't hear us talking back at you delayed, because that'll drive you nuts.
No, I'll find it. I'll put the link up so people will know. Just keep talking, guys.
But yeah, we're going to have this show, and we're going to talk about methods of recognizing when somebody's in a conspiracy theory and how to possibly get them to come out of it. Although I don't know how far we're going to get into that, because that seems like a very complex thing to do. Like if somebody's deep in there, and depending on the reason that they're in there, it could be hard. Like Flat Earth, I've been in this chat since December trying to get people to come out, and I can honestly say I don't know that I've reached anyone.
Well, the problem is say for example, like maybe a week ago, I just watched nonstop Flat Earth videos trying to figure out, these people don't, if something wasn't true, I think it wouldn't have lasted this long. It would kind of just have died out. So there must be something that they're going on about. And the one video showed a guy with a level on a plane, and they're flying for, I don't know how long it was, but he just films the level, showing that the plane doesn't ever dip down. So how can you be on something round if the plane tip never dips to compensate for curvature? So when you see something like that, and then your brain says, tries to come up with a reason for it, and then you just go, oh, it must be because of some technology in the plane or something. But it's got a bubble in it. It doesn't move. It's flat, and the flight's 8 hours.
I say give it another 50 to 100 years when people could space travel to Mars or whatever on a trip. They could go to Mars and hang out at a hotel there and, see, the whatever, the moon or whatever the fuck. I think people are going to look back at this time of flat earthers and just think, holy shit, people are really... I mean, the Neanderthal gene is still there. I mean, you must be that dumb to think that the planet, for it to be flat, is just, I mean, you must be out of your fucking mind. I have no...
I'm not saying I agree with... I listen to the atheists. I listen to everybody. I just kind of...
Listen to the scientists. Never mind the atheists or Christians. Just listen to scientists. Guys that listen to astronauts that have actually left. Like people, it's like, what do you think? Astronauts don't have friends. They don't talk to people, or people from NASA will sit there and go, by the way, this is all, like we're give hush money. They pay us $100,000 to be very quiet. I mean, there are thousands of people that work on these projects. I mean, and these astronauts that went to space, like you had that one fool going up to Buzz Aldrin that had his... Thank goodness you have an 80-year-old Buzz Aldrin punching this imbecile in the face that kept saying, "Why are you lying to people, Buzz? Why?" And you could just tell, like, Buzz Aldrin's like, "Are you crazy? Like, are you really think like?" I'm dealing with a crazy person here. You think that this, like, we didn't go to the moon? And people are like, no, they didn't go to the moon. Like, you listen to that Eddie Bravo guy, and I'm like, this guy is like, I'm sure he's got a good heart and he's a sweet guy, but I'm like, fuck, man, like, it's just kind of sad because it's like, he's like, I don't believe, all the pictures are from NASA. All the pictures are blurry. All this and like, it's just excuse after excuse after excuse, and it's like the only thing that is going to take people to believe that the planet is flat. Jesus Almighty, that is just me saying it makes me want to throw up in my mouth a little bit, but. To think that the planet is flat, for fuck's sakes, and to go, Jesus Christ, I can't
have
believe...
to go see it for themselves.
Yes, they have to. They have to get on a spaceship and go around and see that I'm like, I told one guy, I said, have you ever been on a plane? And he's like, yeah. Have you ever gone to Europe? Yeah. Don't, like, what he's like, but it's like the pilots are trained to fly in a circle, and I'm like, are you fucking that stupid? I go, do you know how many pilots, like my ex's dad was a pilot. Believe me,
the sheer number of people that it would take to pull off a conspiracy of the magnitude that they're talking about.
Oh, it's astronomical.
It's ludicrous. It's not astronomical. It's beyond astronomical. It's ludicrous.
That's what, David, that's what I just don't understand. I'm like, what, even if you were to, like, I'm like, maybe they're holding on to it because for some reason, they want to believe in God. And I'm like, well, even if you believe in God, that should not screw up your belief in God. I mean, you should still be able to say, yeah, the planet is round and I believe in a God or whatever, or Vishnu or whatever you believe in.
Yeah.
But to say that the planet is flat is just, to me, I don't know. Like, I just sit there and go, that is the most
They don't.
stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like,
They
it's
think it's
scary.
flat. They think it's flat, but it has like some kind of a dome over top of it, like a, I don't know what do you want to call it, like you would see in the movies.
Okay,
Like,
but what dome? Like what? Made out of what? Glass? Plexiglass? I mean, we don't even have. I mean, what if it gets dirty? Wouldn't birds fly into it? I mean,
They
wouldn't
shit on it. What?
I mean, like when we have meteorites coming through, wouldn't that smash the glass? Wouldn't that destroy the? I mean, we to this day we have meteorites coming through, small ones, luckily, uh, that come through, and we find these things. It's not like people are throwing them, and there's scientists going, we're going to pretend we'll drop a meteorite from a plane, and then we'll have it land and make a little bit of a crater, and then that way people will think that the Earth is flat. We'll keep the conspiracy going.
There was one that hit up in Russia with a force of 50 kilotons.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. I remember that. Or when people were actually driving and they would see this thing in pieces, like there were like 5 or 6 of these balls of fire. I'm amazed there were no car accidents, because your eyes would be glued staring up at up at the air while you were driving if you saw this thing. I would think, holy shit, what is that? I hope that's not a nuclear bomb or something. I mean, I would be terrified.
I don't know. But like I said, the bad ideas will come to light, and they will be ridiculed and scorned and proven out of existence. That's how that's going to work out. There's no other way for it to happen. In an age where you can go to Google and look up literally anything you want and find the answer, there's no reason for the kind of ignorance that they're spouting.
That's what I mean. David, that's what I just find insanity. Like, you could look this stuff up, man. But you know what they do? They find some kook on YouTube. And that's why when you were saying, it's us that are going to be the, how the news, how you're going to find the right news. Well, when you're sprouting off bad news and then you have people follow you, you're not helping people. Okay? You're really not helping people. You're making people worse.
Well, and granted, there's going to be people that go there for a while and find that appealing.
Yeah, but what's appealing to that? I don't understand the whole flat Earth. What the hell is so appealing to what is that? What does that even
feel? They get this feeling that the idea that the government's in a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy theorist mentality. Idle Comment said in the chat, he says, conspiracy is a state of mind. So they're impervious to the science and reason. Like, you can't sit there and say the governments can't even agree what ideology to follow. What makes you think they're going to agree to fool the entire world on the shape of the Earth? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Infowars, a good description, is what I can't say it. Garuga, I think is how you say his name in the chat. He just posted that. So it's like Infowars is what it is. But I'm not referencing Alex Jones.
But does Alex Jones think the planet is flat?
Who the fuck knows what that clown thinks? He thinks.
But I buy his stuff, and it does give you gas.
Oh, I'm sure it does give you gas.
No, but that's what I mean. I mean, you have a guy like him that there he has a lot of followers, and some of the stuff he says is just absolutely like it's nuts.
batshit.
But
It's batshit.
I do enjoy watching him, but just because it's funny.
Well, and that's what a lot of people don't understand is these people that get these followings. People, why do you think PewDiePie has 61 million? Because his stuff is funny.
Is it really funny?
To some of these people, I don't find it funny personally, but I have a level of maturity that I'm beyond it. Basically,
61 million.
Yes, 61 million teenagers that all think it's hilarious.
Right. But then there's, when you look at, like, take G-Man, for instance. If you look at G-Man's channel, I mean, you know what a goofball he is. He's got 9,000 subscribers. How many of those 9,000 people you think are actually like him in his head?
No, but G-Man's an act.
Well, so are a lot of these other people.
That's the thing. I think people... I think people are afraid to be outrageous and crazy, and we enjoy when other people are like an Alex Jones or a G-Man crazy and they say crazy things, because you wouldn't sit there and say these things. But it's like watching a guy on the corner just it's like that crazy uncle that comes over and tells you some story that that's nuts because he's had a couple drinks. You don't leave the table because the entertainment will, he's kind of the entertainment system right then and there. So it's like that's why you listen to a G-Man or you listen to an Alex Jones is because it maybe with Alex there is some stuff can be a little, the only thing I like about Alex Jones is he doesn't he doesn't trust anybody or the government, and he to me he's just, I don't know what happened, something just came up. Was that you?
That's me. I'm sharing the live chat for the stream so y'all can see.
Okay. The moon is baloney? Oh, the moon is a hologram.
That was at 4.
Oh, that's fucking Robert. He's just being a dick. Rob.
Yeah, of course.
No. I mean, I know Robert. He's just being a fucking. It's funny, Robert. That's real funny. God, I send him nude pics of myself all the time, and we trade pics. So, and I know that's not you, Robert. He's using a black man's penis because it's now Robert's a white dude, so he's just being an idiot. So,
yeah. Well, look at when that happened. That was almost 2 hours ago. So, I mean, look at Pig's the most recent comment. He just posted that.
Oh, God, that was over a while ago. So Robert's gone. So,
I'm sure he's gone.
My favorite quote from a flat earther: I know deep in my heart when I look into the sky that the earth is flat. They are trying to...
I think he meant to say go.
Okay, go against the flat earthers and go against God.
Right. And that is like the ultimate justification for a flat earther is because of God. Like God, it says so in the Bible and everything. And once somebody makes it a religious requirement that the earth is flat.
But does the Bible say that
it doesn't specifically state the shape of the earth? It says there's 4 corners at one point.
Right. No, I know
would indicate a piece of paper, which they're not espousing. Right. So they're not saying it's a piece of paper. They're saying it's a disc. So that doesn't work. It says somewhere in there it's circular at some point, but circular could mean a lot of things, especially in the context of a sphere. So it doesn't specifically say in the Bible, probably because those people did not specifically know that they were on a globe or on a planet at all. Like they didn't really realize that concept existed.
Right.
So to me, it's just like you keep referencing a 2,000-year-old book, but you won't look at a 100-year-old experiment that proved it was a globe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about Eratosthenes. They're saying, well, those sticks are old. I'm like, well, your book is old. You know what I'm saying? The sticks are old. So what? Sticks are old. We still use sticks to measure stuff today. We call them rulers. You know what I'm saying? Eventually we're going to work all this out. It will get worked out. These people will stop. And if they don't, it's going to come to a head when the planet becomes one of these places where you leave or you die. And if there's still people here that believe it's flat and space is fake, then you could fucking stay here and die. Because this place does have a shelf life, folks.
Oh yeah, it does. It does, but that will be in about 1 billion years from now or something.
Well, it's a ways away, but still.
It could be. It could still be like. I'm sure that. What did they say? They said only. When people are looking out at space, they're like, with telescopes and stuff. They could only cover 1 or 2% of the sky. Like when they're looking out into space, and oh
yeah, it's huge. You can't.
Yeah, so I mean, if
the Hubble's in the field of view of the Hubble. And all the fantastic pictures that thing pulls in, it's a little spot the size of a postage stamp in your average telescope. And it looks black to your average telescope on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's how powerful the Hubble is. And it's like, you want to do that to the rest of the sky, it's going to take a while.
There was this wonderful... I forget. It was when they documentary I saw about Voyager and how it left when it passed Pluto, and it turned around and it took a picture, and it took them a couple of days to figure out that one of those little dots was actually the Earth. Because they wanted a picture to show, the Earth away, like far, 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 far away. And one of those little tiny, tiny dots, and it just shows you how we're really just a little zit on the universe. I mean, we are just this little thing. And when people want, the flat earthers or people that, I understand you believe, if you believe in God, and I'm not here to, call anybody stupid. You can believe whatever you want. But I think it makes people go, we're so small. And that's why I tell people, I go, you love and laugh. Love and laugh, it's important. And really care for one another. And people that know me know that I love beating the shit out of people. So love and laugh, because it's just such a small little, we're on this little thing for such a short time. You don't know what the fuck will happen tomorrow to you or a loved one or whatever. So you got to, we got this thing, this mentality of, oh, we'll be in heaven and we'll see grandma and, and there it is. That's the picture right there. That's exactly right there.
That's us, folks.
That's the Earth, taken by Voyager. But that's the problem, though. When people see that, they go, "No, that's impossible. We are not that small. We are a creation of God." And it's like, okay, well, I don't know what created us. I don't know. I'm not going to say I know all that shit, but I think the reason why flat earthers want to stick to that is because of it's important to them to know that there is a God, because it gives them a meaning. I mean, when I came to the conclusion that there was no God, I was depressed for fucking 2.5 years. I mean, and then I agnostic or whatever because I just thought, well, maybe there's some, I'm just, I'm still pulling at straws here, but it's like when you realize that, there really probably isn't a super being out there, and if there is, he could give two shits about you. Uh, or else, there wouldn't be any tsunamis, there wouldn't be babies dying of cancer, there wouldn't be, horrible things that have happened to people. Uh, uh, you know, uh, and then when people say wonderful things have happened to people, then God intervened. But when horrible things don't, when horrible things happen, God works in mysterious ways. So I think flat earthers hold on to the flat Earth because they want to believe that, God is kind of looking after this, and I'm thinking. So if which is even sicker if you think about it, because if you're in a dome, I have an aquarium beside me. Are we his pets? In other words,
does he put his feet on the coffee table next to us?
Yeah, like are we like think about it. Are we kind of we would kind of be like pets. Right? I mean, it would be like in this little aquarium kind of thing, a terrarium, you know.
Even worse, because he demands that we adore him, otherwise he'll
right. And I tell that to my fish before I feed them. I'm like, "Who's your god? Who's your god?" And there's one in there I call Momo, and he's just a jerk. I really just can't stand him. But that's the thing. That's what will destroy people. What will people hold on to that flat Earth thing? And I'm like, you don't. It doesn't need to be flat to believe in a god or a supernatural being. You don't need it to be flat, guys. It makes your argument worse if you think the planet is flat. It makes you uneducated.
Well, I mean, it's not even a salvation issue. It's kind of like the same thing goes with evolution or any scientific field where religion starts to get upset that concept exists. It's like, wait a second, you've got these scientific theories, and when you say scientific theory, that's completely different meaning than the colloquial use, which is more like a hypothesis or not even a hypothesis. But when it's a scientific theory, that's a best fit facts to explain something, like the theory of general relativity or the theory of special relativity or the theory of electromagnetism. Well, if the theory of electromagnetism didn't work, your computer wouldn't work, your lights wouldn't work, the motors in your house on your ceiling fans wouldn't work. None of that shit would work if the theory was wrong. So obviously the theory is correct. So theories in science are something completely different than they are outside of science. So when people say the theory of evolution is just a theory, it's a meaningless statement because it's a scientific theory, and it's the best way to explain the facts of all the evidence that back it up.
Now, I agree with you there, but I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about it, and he kind of, I don't know, the way he kind of described it, he kind of, I could see why he would rub people the wrong way. Because he's like, he said something, I wish I could bring it up, but he brought a thing about, I'll get in an argument with somebody, I give it 5 minutes, then I'm done with them. And he's like, in other words, you just give up on somebody that they because he's like, I just don't have time to deal with people. I'm like, no, you have time. That way they could look at it, do a full discussion about it, and then you just point them to that discussion. Just don't give them don't give them just don't give them 5 minutes. Give have a full. I mean, you can't give everybody a 5-minute discussion, but you're head of the planetarium society there. I mean, it's kind of your job to answer these questions. So he tries to explain it. People don't understand the language he speaks. So he would, if he could, do a better job of explaining it instead of saying, I give him 5 minutes, and then after that, I'm just done with them. And I'm like, well, that's kind of, yeah, it's kind of like if you had a teacher and you ask your teacher a few things, and your teacher says, you got 5 minutes. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like you're left, instead of saying, I got something out of it, you're just angrier and you believe your argument even more because you feel like they never they never answered your questions. Do you understand what I mean? Like you kind of feel like, well, they didn't answer my questions, so I'm right.
Yeah, they feel like they win by default.
Right, and I think he's just sick and tired of saying, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Like, why are we having this conversation? And for him, I feel like you've got to have these conversations, or at least do a full talk about it, like a whole debate with a flat earther, and really bury it. I mean, you remember the debate with there was that famous debate with that everybody. I remember I couldn't wait. I remember I was doing a show, and I was like, I had to do a show in Kitchener, and I wanted to hurry up to catch the debate. It was when Seitan Bruton Kate, that fucking waste of a human. When he and Matt Dillahunty went at it, and it was just like he just looked like an imbecile. Dillahunty made him look like an imbecile.
Yeah, you made him look like an imbecile because anytime someone says something, and you say to them, "Well, show me the proof to back it up," without going to the TV, without going to CGI land where you can make up anything. Show me physical proof to back up your claim. And when you do that to anybody about anything, most people are left just kind of standing there going, "Ugh." Like, for example, I could say, well, if there's a glass dome, then you should be able to create your own rocket and shoot it up with a camera. And what's it going to do? Is it going to ping off it? Is it going to burn through the atmosphere? What's it going to do? If it can actually go all the way up.
Well, people have been shooting rockets up, and there's one that has the Guinness Book of World Record for. The problem is that when you shoot these rockets up, there are so many planes up there. What they're worried about is you hitting a fucking plane with, killing hundreds of people. With this, with the rocket going straight up, and then you have this, the rocket. I think the guy built was 15 to 20 feet. A bunch of people built it and they shot it. So when that thing came down, if that were to hit a plane on the way down, or on the way up, it would have been catastrophic. So people have done these experiments themselves, and people have shot rockets. And Red, if you ever get a chance, watch Red. Where he took a picture of the space station flying by the moon, which is beautiful.
He just did another one of those.
Yeah, and it's like the International Space Station, and it looked like the TIE Fighter. If you look at it, the space station looked like the TIE Fighter, and it went right across, and he slowed it down to every frame so you could see this thing, and it goes right across the moon. And it was just beautiful. And I just thought, wow, and people watch this and think, you're still in a dome? I mean, like,
Yeah. Yeah. He even did it with Astronomy Live. Like he had Astronomy Live in one location,
yes, that's right. Yeah,
in another location, and they used parallax, which has nothing at all to do with the shape of the Earth, to find how far away the space station was.
and he also did it with a shitty camera too. He could have used a better camera.
Well, yeah, the P900's a point and shoot.
Yeah, so he could have used like something where you would have flat earthers going, wait a minute, he used a $10,000 camera. No,
Well,
he used one that he bought at Walmart.
well, yeah, a P900. The reason they like the P900 is because it has some amazing zoom. It has a 2,000 millimeter zoom on it, which
Oh,
is just
I didn't know it had that much. Was that powerful? That
yeah,
zoom.
that's 83x optical zoom basically, and that's nuts. If it, on my I have a Nikon D3400. If I were to get a lens to give me the equivalent zoom on that camera, which because it's an SLR, it has interchangeable lenses on it, the
Right.
lens would be like 2 feet long. It would be like one of those big old honking cameras you see professionals with.
Right.
And it's a $15,000 lens. I don't have that kind of money.
Right.
But I could go get a P900 for $600. So yeah, that's why flat earthers and flat earth debunkers like those cameras.
Right. How much is that? How much was Red's camera? Just curious.
Like the P900 is like about it's around. They go for around 600. I'm not sure exactly what his setup was, but right now, Nikon P900, you can get it at Best Buy for $699. Okay, so 700.
I had no idea that it was that incredibly powerful.
And it's got some really cool little features in it. Like it's got a built-in theodolite, basically. So if it's level or below level or above level, it'll show you where level is.
Right.
So it's kind of a cool little camera. It won't put that on the picture, which is a lot of people's complaint, but it'll do it.
Right.
And you can find out if you're shooting level, so you don't need levels on your tripod, but I've got levels on my tripod, so I don't need that. But
yeah, and so do I. I have a same thing with mine, and even with my telescope, which my son wanted a telescope, so he was totally into that. My dad had one of those massive telescopes that it looked like honestly like a bazooka. This thing, but you're talking about something that is 30 years ago. Was amazing, where my son's telescope is more powerful than what my dad had 30 years ago, So, again, I mean, and he's showing people, again, with the fake news. I don't know why flat earthers, I would see Red talk to people about why the planet, or why like what level is, like even like there was a picture he had of a woman standing there, and he's like the level behind her, the picture frame was crooked, but it's still considered level. You understand? Like you would still consider that to be a level piece of wood, even though it's crooked. But it would be, if you were to describe it to somebody, you'd say that is level. So he would go point, form, and explain to you why, math, why, you could see the Earth, or how we can tell the planet is round. And it's just again, it was like just absolute, hitting your head against a wall. They did not want to listen. And it's like, if you don't want to listen to the argument, then what's the point? Like what that to me is fake news onto itself. If you're gonna constantly have people, you make videos about the planet being uh, flat, and you make videos about that, you're spreading fake news.
Well, yeah. Which is why people like Red's rhetoric go around and say that's fake. It's inherently a dangerous thing when you get down to it, because it's the idea that the planet is flat is going 2,200 years in the past. The idea is 2,200 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to die. It's not a concept we need to have in our heads right now. You know what I'm saying?
All right. What if it's a hologram, so everything's flat, but to us everything looks 3D?
Well, you could put that stuff in front of you. You can speculate all day.
Yeah, you come up with anything, and like it's like no matter what you say, it's like you could sit there and
There's this overwhelming body of evidence, body scientific, basically. Just you go ahead and debunk that entire body scientific, then come up with a theory that explains reality that isn't in that body scientific.
Yeah.
Then you have a room to talk. At that point, you'll have something. Until that point, you got nothing.
I saw in the Middle East a group of men get together. They grabbed swords and they were basically hitting themselves on the heads with the swords, and blood is dripping everywhere. It's just men, little boys, men, grown men, hitting themselves in the head with swords, bleeding. And that's when you realize that the scary part of just somebody ingraining something into your consciousness, like over there they just beat it into him, this is whatever it was, this is the Quran or whatever it is, and this is what you must do to appease God, and these people are out there doing it. Like, the mind is a dangerous thing depending on how it's been, you know what I mean?
Well, I saw one where children would, all they did for their school study was recite the Quran, but they would rock back and forth while doing it.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, if you went to those people and said to them, "Hey, I actually had a conversation with God, and he said that he doesn't think it's a good idea for you to cut your heads," they would just, want to kill you. They would, it's so engorged inside their mind that you can't get that out. So what I'm trying to say is, you can go and try and crush out flat earth stuff, but so long as the flame of say, for example, it even comes back to religion, they're going to say, it says somewhere in the Bible that there's four corners of the earth. So people are going to get indoctrinated into that because of what they read, and then it's just going to keep coming back. So in other words, you'd have to kill out like all religion. And
well, yeah, of course. What I said does work both ways. Like, at some point, they're going to have to, like, there's got to be a capitulation of something. Like, okay, the idea of the Earth being round, like what Vito was saying, you're going to have to take them up and say, you can't argue anymore. You see that? It's the planet. You've seen it for yourself. It is
the only way that you could do that is to take someone from outside of the planet and have them look at it.
Exactly. Well, space travel is going to have to become so commonplace.
Yeah. Well, at that point,
it's just an accepted fact that there are planets.
At that point, there would be no way to do it. But because no one can get off the planet except for certain people who have lots of money, then it's always gonna remain in this never-ending fight. That's why.
Well, it will always come down to, even if you were to take people to, just say Mars had a little colony, and you could take trips up there, and that would be like a vacation thing where, if you open up the window, you would fucking die a horrible death. But you can go on this vacation, and all of a sudden flat earthers you're done, right? You're like, well, that's impossible. The planet's not flat anymore. That's pretty ridiculous. And then, but then they would come up with something else where they would go,
The universe is under a dome.
no, well, yeah, you would. Well, they don't know what black holes are, right? And they would say, well, then that's God. They don't know what a.
I could Matt Dillhunt to you and just say, all right, you say there's black holes. Well, show me one. Prove it to me without using a camera, without using CGI. And that's the position that Hunty clamps everybody down in. So I could say, you say, oh, but there's Mars and there's all these planets. And I'm like, well, I'll show it to you. And then you're like, but look, there's some guy who took a picture of it. It's like, no, show it to me. You see what I'm saying? That's what I've seen Matt.
Yeah, but you'll always I know what you mean. But you'll always, no matter what they say, like before scientists said the Big Bang, religious people didn't know about the Big Bang. But now when they said, well, the scientists came up with the Big Bang, then all of a sudden religious people will say, well, that's how God created the world. That was the Big Bang. That was through God.
But then there's that internal strife in religion over that very concept, because they're like, well, scientists just made that up.
Right.
Because there's no way that's just BS.
Prove it. And then you have to become like a mathematician in order to even grasp the concept of, this is how mathematics works and this is how they calculated it. But I mean, it's just the same as me saying that this planet is just a slave colony to another subspecies of aliens, and they're actually running the show, and we're all just their drones that are down here just doing stuff. How do you prove that? Same thing with all the reptilians and all this kind of stuff. I've seen an octopus meld itself into what looked like a rock, like on a video. And you couldn't tell it apart from the rock. So then you say, well, what if there were beings that were able to do that and they could shapeshift?
Yeah, but that's all. But that's all. Fuck. I mean, you could come up with 1,000,001. That you're always gonna have. What if that? I've seen I've seen a octopus get out of a can. Does it mean it's smart? Yeah, it's smart, but fuck, did it build a rocket? Did it build a car? I mean, you have chimps, like how many chromosomes from half a chromosome separate us and a chimpanzee, but one of us has gone to the moon and the other one doesn't wipe his ass when he takes a shit.
Yeah, I mean, level.
I can flip it around and say, I feel that the animals have more rights than I do. And if I want to go outside right now and have a dump out my front yard, I can't do it because somebody's going to call the police and say, hey, get rid of this guy.
Yeah, but why would you want to do that, though? It's kind of like saying they don't have the reason why we grant them to take a dump outside is because we know that they're not smart. Like, they are smart, but they don't know the difference between a toilet and a fucking backyard. That's a bad analogy,
Yeah, but somebody showed me a picture of a forest, and they said, look inside this forest, and then they show like a beach where we've thrown all of our plastic and our garbage and our crap everywhere, and it's just sitting there. It looks like shit. The forest takes care of itself, and yet we, you know what I mean? We live worse than animals in some way.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, again, you could always go. It's always the God of the gaps. We can't explain it. It must be God, And then once we do explain it, you'll always come up with something else to say, well, it's God, Unless the only way you're ever going to know a God is when you die. Either there's something there or you just don't exist anymore. And as scary as a thought that will be, that is just the truth. Because
option 3, you come back again.
Yeah, option 3 is you come back as a snail, you try and cross the road, and you get fucking crushed. I mean, it's like, again, it's like, reincarnation or whatever you want to believe. To me, it's like, again, God, we don't have the answer, so we'll make an answer. We'll come up with something. And it's like, you don't know until, again, if you, I mean, I've never been to space, but I believe that the Earth is round. I've never been, I just go by what teachers and what people have told me, and I just go by what others tell me. But I don't look at a guy who's a flat earther and listen to his argument. I say, oh, okay, that's kind of, I kind of understand it. Then I'll watch somebody like Red or somebody else and explain why these, why things appear the way they do, and you get it. You're like, okay, all right, that explains it. I get it. Like, so
problems even with their theories. If the planet is spinning at whatever they said, 1,000 miles an hour, if you shot a rocket out into space, shouldn't it be flung at 1,000 miles an hour?
Well, that's why they do the trajectory, right? That's why when they launched it to go to the moon, they had to wait for it to be at a right time, and then to help them to get back I mean, if you watch Apollo 13, when they were clearly, these guys were so fucked, they had to fling, instead of stopping and turning around, they would have screwed themselves worse. So they said, what we'll do is we'll use the moon as a slingshot to throw us back. So it gives us it saves us energy, fuel, instead of.
That's how they got there in the first place. I mean,
yeah, but you understand what I mean? Like there was like if it was just an illusion, and if it was all that would just be like like it would be like, I don't know how to explain it. It would be like, how the hell can you keep? I mean, I can't. I don't know 3 people that could keep a secret. Fuck, could you imagine those astronauts? Not one of those astronauts came back saying, "Yeah, this is horse shit." They all came back either, I know, like Neil Armstrong never did an interview after that. I think because when something so amazing happens to you, well, he did 1 or 2 interviews, but he was the first man to walk on the moon. And you know what? I think something amazing happens to you when you leave Earth's atmosphere and you realize how small you are. And the same thing with Buzz Aldrin and all these guys. They all come back and they're all in a way changed. I'm sure from when they were on the planet before their mission, they all come back very appreciative. And you talk to Buzz Aldrin, and Buzz Aldrin is like, before I used to hate it when it rained or when the wind would blow, and now I love it because when I was on the moon, you realize it's death. There's nothing there. There's no atmosphere. There's no wind. There's no rain. There's nothing, and you realize how precious the Earth is.
There's also radiation that has no atmosphere, which should probably melt your face off.
Well,
that's why he's wearing 30 things of layers of. I mean, they're carrying a life support system with them.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like they could stay there much longer than they did.
No, and they were even told that the radiation would be equivalent to when they wear those suits is whenever you go in and get an X-ray. They would never. I I mean, I mean, they really thought this thing through. There were several. There was Mercury missions before that. I mean, there were so many missions. They sent a fucking, I believe, a dog in space first. I mean, this wasn't just an idea that they came up with. It was uh, uh, you know, trial and error. You had 3 astronauts die. Sitting there because even the Russians thought it was insane to use 100% oxygen. And a little spark caused 3 guys to die horribly uh, in their capsule, and nobody could get them out, and they died a horrible fucking death. That to me is not, and people will say, what's his name? The commander of that flight. He was going to go to the press and let everybody know how fake, this is all fake. And, there's always conspiracies out there where people believe horse shit. And it's like, to me, it's kind of sad. We all, my first project that I ever did as a kid was, I remember, because I could give 2 shits about school, was the Loch Ness Monster. Because I wanted to know, was there a Loch Ness Monster? I remember going to the library and really looking at it and getting all these books and looking, and I remember my mom and dad stopped and they were confused because they'd never seen me study before. They were just stunned. My dad, if he had a camera, he would have taken a picture of it. And I came to the conclusion at the end of it, just to go, that there's no such thing as a Loch Ness Monster. And it sucked because you wanted to believe it. And you would come up with these excuses. Oh, this picture here shows a flipper, or this picture here is, and then you realize that, this is all, again, fake news. Somebody made a little model that they came out 10 years ago and said that, yeah, they were pissed off at the paper, that they wanted to get more money. They got fired, and they made a model of Nessie. They took a picture of it, and for years, people believed in that famous picture being authentic, because you had scientists saying those waves in those pictures were well over 6 feet, or 4 feet. So that creature must be 36 feet in length. Meanwhile, it was a fucking, a little submarine model with kids plasticine the guy made it out of. It was, and this that went on for close to 50 years, that lie. But again, it was fake news. They put it in the paper. People want to believe it, they'll believe it. The person who laughed their brains out was the guys that actually took the picture of it, and sit there and go, I can't believe they put this in the paper and people believe in this horse shit. And that had many kids like myself believing in, yes, there is this plesiosaur in somewhere in Scotland, and you want to believe in it. It's the same thing with Bigfoot and shit. It's like, if you want to believe that there is a Bigfoot, you're gonna believe that there's a Bigfoot. If you look at the evidence, and I mean, what do they got? What footprints or something, or casts? That's all they have. And if you want to believe that there's a Bigfoot out there, and people want to make documentaries and about Bigfoot, finding Bigfoot. I mean, what is that? Season 13, and they have found fuck all.
You turn around and say, well, Harry the Henderson, the movie. Why would they even make something about something that's not even true or real?
Well, the Indians believe the Native Americans believe that there is a called Man of the Mountain, the man of the mountain, the boss of the mountain. They believe that Bigfoot exists, but he was a spirit. It was only white people that were stupid enough to sit there and go, yeah, they mean a giant bipedal monkey, you know. And when I think when people see a I did a whole show about this where if people see if you see things that your mind doesn't compute, uh, uh, like if you see what I believe that people are seeing, I think they're seeing a grizzly bear standing on its 2 feet, because grizzlies, when they want to really look around, they could stand on their 2 feet. Now, if you're in the woods and you come across a grizzly or a bear from 100 yards away and you can't really tell, you'll sit there and go, "Holy shit, that's a 8-man standing there." Bears, we know, don't walk, and meanwhile, there's guys that have done tests to show that bears can walk small distances on 2 feet. And when bears walk, what those prints are is it's the front paw and then the back paw goes over the front paw, so it looks like this giant foot, And meanwhile, it's God, you're talking a bear. So anyways, these tests have been done, but if you want to believe that there's a Bigfoot, you will come up with, yes, that footage is real, or that guy. I think that Patterson guy was nothing but a con artist. There are people that have come forward to sit there and say, yeah, that was me in that outfit. Now, why would they come out and say that? Well, the guy said Patterson was going to pay him $1,000, and he never did. So, and to me, if you read about Patterson, the guy was he was trying to be a filmmaker or something, and it so happened that he had his camera going, and I'll tell you right now, the other guy that was with him, he even said this. He said if that creature were to turn around, he had a gun with him. If that thing were to turn around towards him, he would have blown its fucking head off. Okay? So it was a guy in a suit. Sorry, but if you want to believe that it's that they are these bipedal men, again, I would need a carcass of a creature to believe that. Like with ghosts, the only way I would believe a ghost, if one were to actually appear, but not only that, but somebody else that wasn't on drugs, that we could both sit there and both say, is this really happening, or am I hallucinating this?
Yeah, but here's the other problem. Even if I show you a carcass, you can go on a movie set and see the carcass of all sorts of aliens that they use in movies.
Yeah.
But no, you could open up if they found a carcass of a Bigfoot. I mean, there was that famous alien abduction
cadaver you could take apart and do an
autopsy. Not you could even if a guy were to make a fake Bigfoot and use a heart of an orangutan, and I mean, to make all the even taxidermies have a hard time putting fake animals together. You could see where it doesn't make sense. So what I mean by a carcass, I mean a carcass, a full carcass of a creature where it has a brain and the eyes are all together, and nobody sits there and says we have pieces of an animal. They need a dead one, and that's the only way I would believe it. I mean, when they had the alien abduction video, not alien abduction, alien autopsy, you could tell it was a fucking it wasn't an alien. It was a fucking it was an elaborate hoax made by a guy that spent a little bit of money, again, spreading fake news, spreading that, yes, there are aliens and we found one, and here's Area 51 here, and this was again, thousands upon thousands of people work at Area 51. and they were, one guy was followed home, and he called the police. You're not allowed to follow these people. You could easily follow these people. These people are working on military planes that the Americans do not want other countries to know. So, when you have people talking about, yeah, they have aliens at Area 51 and they hang out and they have smokes and, yeah, to me, it's just, no, you need evidence for that. Like anything, like how people, if you believe that the earth is flat and people throw evidence at you, I'm going to need a lot more evidence than uh, uh, somebody's delusioned, oh yeah, the earth is we're a plate traveling through space in a dome. I need a lot more evidence than that. I think you're just, again, spreading news to people that, you have people that are on so many antidepressives, so many fucking drugs that people are on these days, that it doesn't help people. It just makes it worse. Are we still on?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Throw in like fuck. I always feel like I don't want to be the only guy just babbling away.
I didn't know where to go with that. I was just like, okay, we're on drugs now. Okay.
No, I mean when you have people that you're not helping people that um are on that take medication, right? And if they are medicated and you're telling them that the earth is flat, it's not really helping these people, right? I mean, you're not really helping people. You're kind of just making it worse for them. That's what I meant by that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so let's wrap it up, and let's just say what I know you said that we, the people, are the only ones that are gonna help with the how to help fake news and to be the news. And I agree with you, but I think that if you're out there giving the wrong news, and I think some people don't mean to do that. I think it's just their beliefs. I mean, if you're a Christian and you believe in God, and your narrative is gonna be very different from someone that is an atheist, right? If it's the same topic, if that you're covering, you know, again, if that's just the way I see it. So I think it's a really hard sell to do. Yes, like G-Man has his own, and all these guys have their own little things. And again, yeah, like Bubba's not a big fan of Matt Dillahunty, and I get it. I know what you mean.
You got to understand, it's all about perspective. When somebody comes up to somebody and says, is it good to throw babies, crush babies' heads into the rocks, and Matt Dillahunty is trying to correct them, I think he's right. The problem is that they're taking stuff literally. That's the problem. So he's actually doing something good, I think, even though he's taking an atheist position.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
No, I get it, but that's why,
But there are people on this planet who would do it. physically. They would go out and grab babies and smash them onto rocks because they said there's people that have cut off their ear because it says, you know, circumcise your ear, and but it also says circumcise your heart. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna cut out your own heart? This is the problem when you take stuff literally. So what I'm saying is that he's actually doing good in a way, even though he's coming at it from he's doing more good than some people are who are professed believers, because it's just ridiculous. You just can't do that. But you go over to some other place in the world and they're cutting themselves with swords on their heads. So
well, that's why for the news, like I don't understand, like with Anderson Cooper, where he will stick up for, you know, he doesn't see a problem with, you know, some parts of the Middle East, and I'm like, Anderson, they would throw you off a fucking building. I mean, why? Well, like
that disconnect really bothers me. That whole feminist and LGBTQ, because association with the Islam, it just makes zero sense.
yeah,
I've read the Quran and I've read the Hadith because I like to understand what it is. I want to know what these people think. I want to know how they think. I want to know. I don't believe in Allah or God or any of that, but I want to know, like, when they bring stuff up, what it is the hell they're talking about, right? So I read them, just like I read the Bible, and it's like I thought the Bible was misogynist. Oh my gosh, man. And I thought the Bible advocated for slavery. Oh my gosh. And you were talking about this earlier, Vito. They were repeating, you know, and moving.
yeah, nodding, and they would do that for like hours.
The Quran and Hadith and Islam in general, there are so many prayers you are required to say for salvation throughout the day.
Right.
I saw one guy stop in the middle of the highway because that was the time that he had to go out to pray.
Well,
Right.
yeah, that's what. But you know what? What freaked me out though? That happened to me.
They literally don't have time to think about anything else but what they have to do next to be saved. That's the problem.
Well, the point of it
They
is
can't question it because they can't think about anything
they've
else.
been so conditioned that that's just the way it is. It's just like a computer. The computer's been programmed, and unless they, I don't know, have an experience, the problem is that if you say, oh, those people are all conditioned, why would you not think that you've also been, like I've also been conditioned? I said, for example, I was driving on my way to work one time, and there was a funeral procession going the other way, and I looked at the clock, and I'm like, yeah, I got to get going. And I just kept going. I didn't like pull over or anything. And one guy from the funeral procession pulled out of the lane to like come at me like with his car, and putting his hand out like, you know, you dumb piece of shit, pull over. And I'm like, there's no law that says that I have to pull over. I feel bad that you guys are having a funeral or whatever and you're sad, but how does you guys being sad mean that I have to be late for work? And that's a condition that everybody would, I've said this to people at work and they all jump down my throats like, well, you are an asshole. And I'm like, I'm an asshole because I didn't follow a tradition of the people around me. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's just
but I think it was just out of respect. That's what was what.
So in order to respect the dead, they want to kill someone who's living.
No, I think they I think if you explain to your boss at work saying, by the way, you know, there was a funeral procession. If you don't believe me, I mean, fuck you. But I think just out of respect and just like I would have pulled over. That's me personally.
Because you're missing the point.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I get what you're I get what you're saying, but uh,
Wait,
that's just
They could interpret it as disrespectful, but I mean, my gosh, if I had a meltdown every time someone was disrespectful to something that I believe, like I couldn't even function.
yeah. But how many times you're going to be able to like see something like that? That is like something that unless you live right by a
It was on a highway. If it was in the city limits, I probably would have, but whatever. It was just weird.
oh
The point I'm trying to make is that there's conditioning that we have that, it's just built into us. And if someone said, well, what? Like, say, for example, you look at people in Africa and somewhere it's like a tribe somewhere. It's like they put rings around their neck because they think that makes them look sexy and they elongate their necks. Like, it seems so strange and goofy to us. And yet they look at us and they're like, they just point out a bunch of stuff that we do that's just stupid. So, I don't know.
yeah. Well, they do look fucked up though. Yeah. So
As an outsider, yeah, they do.
right,
no, I'm sure one of them has got to sit there, and you got to remember it's culture. So
but see,
if you were brought up, it's like same thing with any religion. If you're a Baptist, you're brought up Baptist, and if you have the liberty in this country, when you get older, you have the internet, and you have, and you can look at things and sit there and go, well, I don't believe in that anymore. Or I mean, I would watch Aaron Raw, and at first I just disliked him, and then I would watch him and then just go, wait a minute, what did he say? And then I would go back a couple days later and look at it and just go, holy shit, he's right. So, um, you know,
Aaron Ra was one of the main reasons I became an atheist.
yeah, and I told him that too, and I told him that, that's why he means a lot to me. So
Speaking of that, I just signed up with I just volunteered on the Phylogeny Explorer project because of my programming background and and so forth, because they need some serious help. I mean,
what is a phenology program?
well, phylogeny is the tree of life. Okay, and so
Oh,
what the Phylogeny Explorer project is trying to do is put that online with all links established and kept up to date constantly. So there's thousands of species extinct and extant that need to be put in. The database needs to be developed. I think it's still in development. I'm not sure.
right.
That's kind of where I want to focus because I have data structures knowledge and database knowledge. I used to work for Oracle. So I don't work for Oracle anymore. I'm into hardware now, but I think my knowledge of how to build databases could come in handy.
Right. Well, that's cool that you're doing that. But no, Arn was one of the reasons that, and I used to think he was the enemy. But here's the thing, what I mean. Wherever you were born, you're going to believe what your parents told you, or, all your friends. And that's why church was always kind of, everyone went to church. You had, you had your own group. And then if you're Catholic and there was another church beside you, you didn't mingle with them. You just never did, right? So, but we live in such a multicultural planet now. Well, especially Canada, where you will mingle with them because they end up being your neighbors. So you see the world differently.
You become friends with your kids at school.
Yes, exactly. So you become friends with these people, and then you realize that, wait a minute, what did you believe? And then you're kind of like, it kind of opens up your eyes. Where other cultures, like the Muslim culture, some of them aren't allowed over there, aren't allowed internet, and it's like same thing with North Korea. Or what is it, South Korea or North Korea? Anyways, they're not allowed.
North Korea.
Yeah, North Korea. They're not allowed the internet. So you're kind of stuck in believing, and that's a bubble. That's actually the
That
bubble.
North Korea is a giant echo chamber. Here's the problem. Eventually, the rest of the world is going to have to deal with them.
Yeah, but
And China's in that boat right now because people think China's going to be a problem for us. We're their biggest customer. They're not going to do anything to really mess with us. They're not. They're not going to upset their economy
sure,
to
of
the
course. Fuck you. Why would you do that? I mean,
point. Right, exactly. So
that-
that would be insane. So they would literally kill their own country if they went to war with us. So it's not going to happen there. They have already stated that if Kim Jong Un is dumb enough to strike the U.S. first, they would fight on our side.
well, didn't they come out? Didn't he come out? Whatever his fucking name is, I'll just call him Rocket Man. He just come out where he wants to not. He wants to denuclearize his country. There was something on the news about that.
I don't know, but if he does, then that's fantastic. But the problem with disarmament is then you're saying, well, I don't care about the nuclear threat that exists out there. I don't want to play the game anymore, and everybody who is playing the game sees you as a target at that point. And it's a nuclear war game is it's another thing we're going to have to deal with. That kind of stuff is what should be on the news. That's what we should be talking about on the news, not Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, I know. That's the thing that just, I mean...
Not Kim Kardashian's ass. None of that shit.
I know. That's where I just think I don't get that. I really don't.
Sickness of the news. It's like a drug addict. Anything to get a ratings up. If that person's butt will get people to look and that gives them more ratings, they get more money. That's really all it boils down to. Either they would show, wouldn't matter. They would show anything just to get people to look at it to get the ratings up. Since everybody knows sex sells, and that's why there's butts there. Oh, yeah. That's the way it is.
Well, on that note,
the butt joke.
We always leave it on a butt joke. And that's, I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that what I see out there is it's getting worse than better. You know, I mean, with the news, the way it's going, it's really...
It's so depressing. I don't even watch it.
Yeah. Well, I watch, I'll watch it on YouTube, just the highlights of it, and it's just to kind of, and you could only watch a little bit of it until you go, holy shit, do these people think that you know, that we believe this? And then there's people that, yeah, they must believe it. But I think that's why the Oscars have gone south. You know, I mean, half the fucking movies no one gives a shit about, you know, or you know, there's just not enough. There's so much out there. That's why, you know, whatever, football and baseball, all these sports are so down in ratings, is because people are doing other things. You know, people could care less. You know, I'm watching a multi-millionaire fucking catch a ball. I mean, who cares? Or hit a ball. I mean, really? I mean, I find baseball the fucking most boringest. I don't know. I'd rather watch fucking, you know, two flies fucking than seeing that. You know, I don't get it. I don't get it. You know, but I could see why ratings are down is because
Go to a baseball game is almost like going to church. You go to a building or you go somewhere where there's a bunch of people that all have the same
but
view.
that's sports. That's the whole
Huh?
that's the point of it, right?
Like if I was to go to a sports stadium, I wouldn't even be watching the game. I'd be more curious as to how did all these people get in here, and how do all these people live without and leave this building without trampling on each other and killing each other. Like it's almost a miracle.
No, I know, but again, it's just I think that's why ratings are down. Just I think kids are more into video games and really could, you play your little league game or whatever, or the kid plays that, and before I remember, you would have your, uh, where kids would have posters of their favorite athlete, and you just don't see that anymore because we used to hold these athletes up or celebrities up as godly figures, and we realize that they're really not. They're just, I mean, fucking like when you watch enough YouTube shows and you sit there and they have stuff where it's like, if you really watch the Oscars or any award show, it's a bunch of successful people patting each other on the back. That's all it is. And you're sitting at home eating your fucking M&Ms. I mean, like, hey, are you going to the after party? Are you gonna, you know what I mean? Are you know what, like, are you doing any of that? No. And are people living vicariously through them? Sure, there are some, but after a while, you don't. You kind of go, fuck that. I'd rather be tending my garden or walking my dog or there, something else besides this. I could care less. And I mean, again, with the fake news, if you watch, all he did is watch the highlights of the Oscars, and it was like, just put down Trump, and I'm like, who cares? I mean, show a movie. Show. Do you know what I watch the Oscars for? And I always miss it because I don't watch it, but I used to watch it for all the stars that I grew up watching had passed, and I don't watch it in enjoyment. It's just sadness. Because I think, oh, you were wonderful in that. When Gene Wilder passed, I wanted to see him because I thought he had the most beautiful eyes and he was such a beautiful man. So, um, anyways, it's just, I think people are just sick of, you know, being, everything's political, everything is, and even Chevy Chase said that about Saturday Night Live. He said when he used to make fun of Ford, you would always make fun of a political figure, but these days it's gone completely, you do a whole show about it. I mean, Saturday Night Live is just turned into make fun of Donald Trump. I mean, you've got, what's his name? Alec Baldwin. His whole fucking career is, doing impressions of Trump. I mean, it's like, really, like, fuck, just don't do a funny sketch. But no, let's do a funny sketch with Trump, or it's like, fuck, that's, I don't know. That's why I don't watch Saturday Night Live anymore. I could give two shits about it. It just doesn't do anything for me, and it doesn't, it's not funny. And the people that played the characters of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, they all win Emmys for playing those characters, of making they're the winners. The rest of the people that actually came up with good sketches, they didn't, they didn't even come close. So, anyways, any final words, guys? Final thoughts?
Flies having sex.
I know. I missed that. I'm gonna go look for some right now.
And my final word is keep thinking for yourselves, people.
Yes. Very well said. So, folks, I appreciate you. Thanks so much. Again, if you have any comments, please leave them. Let me know what you think. And we'll be doing more shows like this. The topic today was, I know we were all over the place. It was about fake news, but it's a tough topic because there's been so much garbage out there you don't even know anymore. So for those that stuck around or listen, I know it's a this is a long show, but sorry about that. I thought we were only going to do an hour and we ended up doing 18 hours. So thank you so much. And I want to thank my two guests. Bubba, thank you. David, thanks so much. And I'll talk to you guys later, and be good to yourselves. All right?
Take care.
Talk to you later.
Take care.
Ciao.